Good to see you, Hazel. Good morning from India. Good morning, Dr. Maza. You're muted.
Yes. Hi. How are you? It is Maya.
Yes, Maza.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm still awake, so that's a good thing.
Yes, that's one of the best things. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are live. We'll expect our first speaker to join soon, I think within 20-25 minutes. Let me give him another thing. He's actually from Germany at the moment, so it's like 3:30 a.m.
Okay.
Okay, because it's live, let me formally welcome all of you to World Leaders Summit. So World Leaders Summit is happening from 7th of December to 16th of December with more than 120 speakers worldwide. So when we calculated the number of countries they're attending, it's approximate 90 countries. And we are blessed that we have all those global speakers, change makers joining us. Before we start the summit, let me give thanks to all of our partners, all of our ecosystem players and sponsors. So let me give thanks to Anim Gaming, Deep Tech Knowledge, 8 Metals, Glamour Face, Avenue Global, Animation Reviews, Peer Signal, Supreme Corp, Virtual Infocom, IOI Industries, VGD, Cybersecurity Gigs, I Am Superhero, Yoga Training for You, My Films, Sports Zone In, Second Life Tech, Cosplay Seller, Squash Code, Exo Designs, and for the ecosystem partners, we have Entrepreneur Face, Achievers Hub, BizTech, Extended Reality of India, iLead College, TechSauce, the largest ecosystem player in Thailand, Billion Divas, Vadvani Foundation NEN, IBM TV. Thank you so much for all those nice, videographies that you guys are creating, as well as the broadcast. Adamas University, thank you so much for the sponsorship as well as the support that you have done. Africa Digital, thank you so much for the broadcast. HD Africa, thank you for the startup list as well as sharing all these into your communities. Thank you so much. Welcome to WLS 2020 happening 7th of December to 16th of December. So we had a beautiful day on 8th of December. We had great extended discussion on food, biotech, and leadership yesterday. We had speakers like Dr. Hazel from Australia. We had Dr. Prashun Misra from US. We had Nilipar from India, Anuj from India, Dr. Rudra Shah from Adamas University, India, Miguel from Spain, Yuan from Spain, Dr. Paramita Basu from US, Dr. Timothy from USA, and Dr. Liani from USA. It was an amazing, amazing summit, and we gave startup awards as well as industry recognition yesterday evening. It was a gala night, and I'm blessed that our jury members came and they, gave the award to the awardees. So we are waiting for today's first speaker, and he'll be joining us very soon. And last but not the least, I'm thankful to the teammates of WLS. They are all there and supporting as well as working day in and day out. Of course, I need to take another name, Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary. He is one of the pillars in this World Leaders Summit who has been supporting it from the very beginning. Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned, and I can see that participants are joining. Hello, everyone. I can see that Kalyan joined as well as Kunal Hyde, Ajay Christina from Brazil, Ajit, Anirban Das, Ankit. Thank you, Ankit, for being there. Banani, thank you. Biswajit, Joy Kormakar, thank you so much for joining. Kalyan Biswas, Kunal Hyde, Mukta, Preeti, Sweta, and Chetanjali. Thank you for being with us. I should take name of our teammates. We have Sagar with us, who has been supporting it from the very beginning. We have Nymphia, as well as we have the rest of the teammates. I can see that they are doing super cool stuff. Sweta Kumari, Svetanjali, thank you so much for being a pillar into World Leaders Summit. So if I may give you a very brief understanding of today's event, today's event is actually distributed into two different parts. We have a first part, which is going to happen now, and then we have a second part of the summit, which will start at 4 o'clock Indian time. So in the morning, we have a speaker from Finland, but he's traveling, so he'll be logging in from Germany, Mr. Chandra. Chandra is a specialist into smart city and social impact, and he's doing a lot of work into that domain. Then we have Maya, of course, we just saw her. She's an amazing, excellent, super cool speaker. Then we have MP Joseph from India, an excellent Superman from India. We have Farah, my God, she's a Wonder Woman. She'll be joining us soon. She's from Malaysia. We have Nofar from Israel. She's again traveling. She'll be logging from Dubai. Great human being. She's doing massive work. And guess what? Coming in today's evening summit, we have Dr. Tina Alton from UK. We'll have Concepta from Belgium, Bianca from Romania, Vash from Scotland, Dr. Malamba Iyer from India, Mr. Shubhranshu from India, Curtin from Germany, Sadia from Canada. So looking forward, guys. Stay tuned with us. Give us a couple of moments so that our first speaker comes and he deliver his first speech. Yes, he just texted that he'll be joining us within next 5 minutes. for the sake of everyone, if you are following us in social media, we are live in Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/World Leader Summit. You can actually watch it live, and we usually accept questions in the message box. We are live in Tweet. It is there in Twitter. You can send us direct message or retweet or probably comment in the tweet box. And we are live in 6 different other social media, including Russia, Canada, Estonia, and Africa. So looking forward, guys, for beautiful questions which you are asking for the last couple of days. Welcome to WLS. Yes, I can see you. Thank you, Christina, for all the support that you're doing. Okay, so I'll give you a rundown how we usually take the questions and how we answer. If you have specific question to any specific panelist, kindly feel free to put that question in the chat box, or there is a Q&A section. You can put your question over there, and once the panelist wants to answer that, I'll prompt that and he or she is going to give that answer. This is how we usually manage the whole event. So I'm really happy that people already started sending text and message in social media. Thank you for all the good wish. Thank you so much. Yes, we are also excited. Maya, I need a small favor. Could you please turn on your camera and probably stand stand still for 2 seconds. I need to take a snapshot. We do the live tweet. Just your face. Yep. You look great. Give me a second. 1, 2, 3, go. Go. 1 second. Thank you.
Okay.
And as I can see that there is a hand holding happening, I'm getting text that we are hand holding with each other. That's the purpose of the summit. I'm so happy. We are so happy that speakers are interacting with each other and they are supporting each other. Kudos, guys. That's the energy. Thank you so much, Ankit, for that comment. And thank you so much, Ovi, for all the help that you're doing. Thank you so much for all the sharing and becoming a ecosystem partner. Uh, I'm just expecting Mr. Chandra to come very soon. I'm just in touch with him. Please allow me to connect with him. Welcome to our latest summit, Chandra. We can see your dreamy eyes and a happy face.
Yeah, hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me formally welcome Mr. Chandra from Finland. He's traveling at the moment, as I told you, and he is there in Germany. We are really honored and blessed that he agreed to come live early in the morning. It's around 4 a.m. in his time. And I can see a couple of other people who actually joined us. It's approximately 3:25 a.m. from Egypt. And I'm really blessed that you joined, my brother. Okay, so to give a small brief about Chandra, Chandra hails from India and has been living in Finland for more than 18 years. He has a long working history working with Nokia, both with Symbian and Migo, architect many transportation system and smart city platforms. He has been an entrepreneur for more than 8 years and always been hands-on with the technology. He contributed to many open source projects and standard. He is a senior architect in Fire Foundation. Welcome to World Leaders Summit, Chandra. Thank you so much for being with us. Give me 2 seconds to take a snap of yours. Could you please smile in the screen? Thank you so much. So the stage is yours, Chandra.
All right. Hey, thank you. So at this stage, we're having a panel discussion, right? Or do you want me to
speak of yours? You have got your own subject.
Okay. So we are a bit early then.
Yes, 9 minutes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be on this stage. I'm generally used to, I travel a lot, so I'm generally used to wake up at this time and take my car and drive to the airport. Most of the time, this is the scenario. But the first time, I'm not sitting in the car rather than sitting in a World Leaders Summit, which is a great. And thanks for Arjit for organizing all these things. And I'm sure actually he has gone through a many painful journey or painful things to organize these things and getting this moving on. I will right away jump into my topic where I will start presenting. Okay, let me pick up my slides.
For a smooth, even run, please put your question in the chat box, comment box, or Q&A.
Yeah, and I see there's 26 participants, which is really good at this time of the day when we're considering the whole world joining.
Yeah, Chandra, and we have a couple of more people who are actually in the panel who are doing work like approximate 16 hours a day. I'm grateful that people are working so hard. I'm grateful to you as well, joining at this hour.
Oh. Okay, so can you see my presentation slides?
Yes.
And I think I made it full screen now.
Yep.
So I will present where let's speak more, and I will leave a lot of space for a question and answers. And if any one of you wants to see the references in that, I can give you some live references and get the get the full idea about this. So why do we need standards in the smart cities, and why are we actually talking about this at this stage? Um, I have been in this field for almost 6 years now, and my curiosity about this started when I was working and architecting the Helsinki transportation system, where we it was a single aim to get more millennials to use public transport. As as uh, as we all know, millennials don't have much patience. They want to be very spontaneous. So we need to make a public transport as easy as them for them to just walk out and whistle for a taxi and get into taxi and move around. That was one thing, and the second thing is that we wanted to reduce the fixed timetables. We want to remove totally the fixed timetables. So this is where we started looking into this sector almost 7 years ago. And when I started architecting these things and putting the pieces of puzzle together, then we realized actually that there needs to be a standards, because there are many things which are there. There are people keep saying to me whenever I go to a city or an organization, they say to me that, look, Chandra, we don't have data at all. I don't agree with it. We have the data, but we don't use 98% of it. We don't know 98% of the data. So here I'm going to speak about a little bit about why do we need, how basically we have been addressing this from the organization which we are working. I will not say much about the organization. If needed, I can say a little bit more in the questions section. But I would like to take it forward in a journey where I would like to invoke a thinking in all the leaders who are joined here about why do we need this, and there is a very strong connection to the European Union to this initiative, and there is a reason for it. So our new digital life. So we are actually looking into a new digital. How are we actually living nowadays? It's not enough that we have a data about something. It all gravitates around this context information, which is what is going on, where, when, and why it is going on. So it's how the human brain works. So you go and give some human an irrelevant data, which is basically not needed to him, even though he needs him, and even though he don't need it, he will not be able to connect to his current scenario or a context which his brain is working right now. And this is where the whole problem starts, is that we have a lot of data. We keep pushing this data to the humans in order for them to consume, in order for them to make use of it. So we don't means this data is lying around all over the place, and it is important that we add a context to it. So context is a most important item when we're discussing about it. So even when two people talk about, they have a conversation, they don't understand exactly why they are talking about something irrelevant, but it's always when there is a conversation, context to a conversation, then actually it goes much smoother, and it's a much more productive conversation. So I always believed that we need to have a context to every conversation, every data. And this idea of context has been around since 1990s. Actually, it's not the first time which came into light. Then it worked that a data needs to be always having a context. So, for example, there is a family where there are two kids, for example, and for the grandparents, the kids are grandkids. For the parents, the kids are kids. And for grandparents, they are they want a different kind of data about the kids. For parents, they want a different kind of data for the kids, and the friends wants a different kind of a data about that kids. So this is all about context. A single data can actually be viewed as many different perspectives depending on the context. So our whole life, actually, in the digital life, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to find a context to it. So we are always adding into it. So this is around the whole data standards. That this is around the standardization actually revolves around, and the essence of the smart solution. So why basically why we are actually talking about a smart solution here in the context. What is the relationship? It's always the data is captured, processed, and actuated. Data is equal to, data is nothing but a context information. And smart solutions gather these many types of data, different types of data. They could not be only single type of it, including not only limited to the IoT data. We call it sometimes a digital twin representation of the real world, or also called as a context representation, which is constantly analyzed and processed in order for us to automate some certain processes. And this slide, of course, I have taken it from my organization, which is a 5-year organization. A real world scenario all the time needs a context, and just connecting a data and keeping it somewhere is like a nothing but a huge blob of data which cannot be used in. So for us, the context is really an important thing in the thinking. So today's context information is, so we take a city, for example, and they are often organized in silos. So one is the transportation data, public service, energy utilities, safety and security, citizen reporting, emergency services, public services, PWD, public works development. All this data has been in the silos. And these silos are, they're organized by a different sub-organization under the same city or a same provider or same organization, and they have their own challenges, they have their own priorities, and these are all, and they keep collecting this data for tens of years, decades, and they are just there lying, which are not used by others. So for example, public service organization would need a lot of data from transportation so that it can add, it can make it more relevant for for the problem it is addressing right now. For example, energy and utilities can make a lot of benefit out of transportation. So all this data has been organized in silos. So technology and vendor locking and incompatibility. So this is the major challenge what we have at this stage, practically speaking, on the ground. So we have a silos where we are trying to get the information. The context cloud, which I'm actually showing, is just a context where we are trying to get an information from data from different sources. What is happening is that most of the time, or even 95% of the time, all these silos are being built by different companies with a different motivation, with a different purpose. The context why they are collected is a totally different than the context why they are needed in here. So the red rounds which I'm showing here is the problem with the interfaces, that they have a different interfaces. Someone might be using, even a REST API, somebody might be using a different protocol or a technology or an interface which is totally different. And when we are trying to combine this data, first of all, the challenge is to extract the data. It took, in some of the government organizations, it took us almost 5 years to extract the data. It as ridiculous as it is. Even in the very advanced countries like USA and European countries, where the data has been collected for decades and kept digitized quite a long time, it took us almost 5 years to extract the data. Forget about connecting it to a different organization, and then extracting a context information out of it. So this is a major challenge we have been facing, and this is a challenge even right now India is going through, because India is also investing heavily into the smart cities and urban data exchanges. So I'm glad to be involved in one of the EU-India collaboration project, which is called Indian Urban Data Exchange. So they created a data exchange platform, which is complying with the standards which I'm going to speak now. So what we did actually on our side is that we collected different organizations like ETSI, which is European Telecom and Standards Institute, TM Forum, which is a collaboration of 3,000 organizations approximately, and CEF Digital, which is an European Commission organization, which is a Connect Europe facility. So we are, what we did is that ETSI published in January 24, 2019, after, it's an evolution which took almost 20 years. The first of its kind has been initiated by Nokia Nokia and Ericsson back in late 90s, where they started an initiative called NGSI, Next Generation Service Interface. It was about the contextual information. It was about creating a very standard information about how the data should be organized, standard API or an interface, defining an interface which would actually be able to extract the data between the different standards. And the rationale is to reinforce the fact of the specification. The main thing at the time in late 90s, it was too early technology, as Nokia did a lot of things which were too early. So this is also one of those things that it went too early on this, because telecom vendors are already facing that problem at that time. Later it went down, and it's reinitiated or restarted back in 2012 with a heavy push from the European Union, and a first version, a very good articulated version of NGSI version 2 came out, which has been used by almost hundreds of smart solutions around the world. And later it evolved into a more context-oriented standard, which I would call it as NGSI LD, which is the linked data, which is a proper context-oriented data. You can search it in ETSI pages about the specifications, runs into hundreds of pages. A lot of technical things on it, but the important thing we need to understand here for all of us here is that it is an interface which is created to extract the data in a standardized way based on a context. So you can supply a context saying that this is the context I'm looking at. For example, you can say that you can create a scenario where a person is lost in the city, or looking for a next transportation which is coming from which is going to a particular place. So, and here the context is the importance of getting a public transportation availability for this guy. And how this can actually go into many contexts inside is that, okay, when is the next bus or a public transportation going to come? Whether there is a public transport to this to the place where this person is right now standing, that's the first thing we need to analyze. No, then we need to guide him. We probably have to guide him to the nearest public transportation bus, or whether this guy would like to choose the taxi or some customized transportation. Then we need to, when we know exactly that what type of public transportation this person is going to use, then we need to guide this person. We need to understand whether that particular public transportation vehicle is going to come to this guy next at what time, and if it is coming, then what is actually the reason or what is the context of this guy, this public transportation coming to this bus station or customized transport in that case. The time of travel or time of arrival of this public transportation, what is exactly the time which the next bus will be available for this person, or the next taxi is available, and how much time it takes for that public vehicle to come to this particular place. And it depends on many contexts. So if there is a traffic jam in the city at that particular time of the event, or at particular time of the time, then that actually is another story. And if we can also go into many details of with this thing, that why there is a public transport traffic jam in this city. Is there a lot of events happening, or is it a peak hours, or is it um, how can we actually put it this way, is that an event could impact a movie theater. When they are leaving a movie theater in India, it could impact the traffic also. When the movie finished, everybody tries to come out from the movie theater, even that impacts the traffic. And if there are some protests, which could be a common reason also for a public transport, peak hours could be a common reason, a school timing is a common reason for this. So we need to understand the context at that point in the real time. And that is where we actually can deliver a very good solution for this particular problem, that there is this particular human needs a transportation vehicle at this point of the time, at this point of the place, and how much time this transportation vehicle takes to come to this place, and what is it depending on. So there are fixed timetables in the world. Most of them are using it, but when we try to move into a dynamic timetables or dynamic scheduling or dynamic prediction of when this particular transportation vehicle can come to this particular place, then there are a lot of things needs to be considered, and all these are belonging to the context. And it is not only a single data access point we are talking about. We are talking about the events, we are talking about the traffic situation, we are talking about the environment. You know, when it is a rain in India, a monsoon time, the roads go crazy and there's a lot of water on the road, so it could delay that. If it is a snowfall in Europe also, it could actually cause a lot of traffic delay because of vehicle starts moving slow. Icy roads, all these things can impact this particular event, this particular data point which we need. So I'm just talking about a simple thing, which is a bus from X to bus from Y. We know exactly this bus is needed. We have a prediction algorithm which can actually tell in the normal situation, this bus will come at this point of the time. For giving an exact time, we would need to combine a timetable, which is our prediction when this bus can come to this bus stop, which is actually a very good advance in the world already, which is a very good advancement in the world. But at the same time, adding all these contextual information around that bus will make things much more predictable and much more available. And even after the bus comes there, we need to understand how many people are there in the bus. We need to understand whether there is a place in the bus, and and nowadays it is very important that whether this bus can be recommended based on the current information of the bus, that that a person goes into this or gets into this bus based on does it have is the bus full? That means that would there be a social distance, or in the current scenario what we are living in the world, the social distance is one of the most critical thing, right? So this is another important aspect of this whole thing. So the context is important, and this is what I identified the whole the initiative around the world, especially on the European Union side. We have been working on this for almost more than 10 years now into it. Um, we used, it's not about only creating the standards, but it is also been providing the required technology, which can take it forward, which can actually gives the confidence to people, gives the confidence to authorities that, yes, this can be implemented, this can be used, this can be, leveraged and created. For that, we actually have to create with the common data models, which with the organization TM Forum. We have a Vienna, Nice, Genoa, Porto, Santander, a lot of Spanish and South American cities, even Japanese cities are going for it. This is the broker which we have been developing on Fiverr side. It's called Context Broker. It's been chosen by the Connect Europe Facility Building Block. By all European member states. Existing the CEF means how to build a single digital market in European Union where a single standardized solutions can be used. So, for example, e-delivery, e-invoicing, e-ID. So, whenever a company from Denmark, for example, is sending an invoice to Spain, there is a particular protocol and a standard, and an invoicing model is followed. That particular standard is being used across the member states, so that there is no confusion in getting an invoice and how to pay the invoice, uh, and if you know that PIC number or shift number or whatever, so there is a VAT number where a tax office is immediately reported to the respective countries, so that this is totally automated. So these are all the things which are there, but with all those things, European Union and Fiverr and TM Forum or HC identified that the NGSI standard, which would be a standard between the different data silos, which could be used for extracting the context and extracting the data, and build the context around it. So what is the advantages of open source platform standards? Or I'm not speaking much of an open source here, but it is an open source is also connected partially, but it could be an option here. But the platform standards could be very important. A basic architecture has been developed and available for everyone. It's vendor neutral. There's a big development community around it. They are trying to solve context for millions of things, not only hundreds. An example which I quoted, this is that there is a family and there are kids. For example, one kid in a family, for father, the kid is a different context and he looks the kid in a different way. Mother looks the kids in a different way. For grandparents, if they have many grandkids, this kid is one of the grandkids, and they need a different kind of data. They look at it in a different way. And for a teacher or for a school, this particular kid is a different personality altogether and different context altogether. For his kids, for his friends, this kid is a different context. For a kid who is walking, for the same kid when he's walking in the traffic, it is a different context for the vehicles which are passing by. So this could be, a single data point or a single data item could have thousands, if not hundreds, thousands of contexts around it. It depends on what context we want to get this data point out. Just an example on this. So if the kid is there, if the kid's friends needs the name of the kid and what he does, what are the hobbies he has, that is the context for the kid's friends, so that he can play cricket with them, he can play something with them, with that kid, or maybe a video game with them, organize these things. So does he have this interest? Does he have not having this interest? For the parents, the important thing is that how kid is studying, did he eat or not? Did he sleep or not properly? Whether the kid is having, how fast he's growing, so that they can buy the clothes, they can buy the shoes for him when it is growing, and what are the season. For grandparents, actually, it is important that what his kid is eating, when is this kid going to come having holidays, so that they can visit them and play with the kid. For example, for a bus which is actually going next, or a vehicle which is going on the road where the kid is actually crossing the road, it is important for a vehicle to understand that there is they don't care about what is his name, what is his hobbies, or anything. They just care that, okay, there is a kid who is walking, a physical entity, which is a person who is walking on the road, and immediately they need to stop. And that is a context they are interested in. They are not interested if it is a male or a female. They are not interested in, but it is that the context at that particular of the time of the day, he is crossing the road. That is the context this person who is driving a vehicle needs. And if this kid goes to the doctor, then there is a different information about this kid is needed. So based on the context, a single data point, a single entity of a data has many, many attributes to it, and many data points, and many data collections to it. Like, for example, I can say that a kid is one entity. Hobbies, how much tall he is, how much fast he's growing, did he eat today or not, did he not eat today or not, what he ate, what is his shoe size and clothes size and everything. So this is all this kid as an entity, and these are all attributes which has. Based on the context, a particular attribute can be picked up instead of processing the whole, getting all the data, which is 90% of the time might not be useful for that particular context. So this is what we are actually talking about. This is what we are working on the day-to-day, that to build the context for millions of data points, what we have, or if not millions, actually billions, I would say. And this will make the current data more valuable, more usable, and more approachable for any of the smart solutions to use. And that is what I've been saying to the cities all the time, and transportation authorities or utilities authorities, that there is a lot of data, you just need to find a context to it. And there are successful companies, irrespective of what it is, that all the social media networks, what they do is your context. They when you're browsing a social media, a particular social media, they get your location, they get, if you have allowed them to use your location, they get your location, they get all these things, and immediately an advertisements or an information which suddenly pops up in the middle of the stream, which would be much more relevant to your context of that when you're browsing it. So they can in real time analyze the context, throw the advertisements on the screen where basically it can come. So this is what we have been trying. A large group of global corporate companies have involved in this initiative. We kept it royalty free. We kept it non-vendor locking, so that anybody can use it. And this has been, this is almost the same standards at the level of, I would say, even the GSMA has approved and adapted to it for the big data platforms. There is a standard API which has been actually shared. So this is my last slide, and I'm more open towards questions on this. I'm sorry I took a lot of time, but we can go through many questions and examples as we can go on.
Super. So Chandra, is it fine if you just turn off your slide share so that probably we can see you? And yeah.
Okay.
Great. So I've got a few questions. Two of the questions are here directly. Shwetanjali is asking you, good morning, sir. My question to you is, as India is a developing country since so many years, so how is it possible to bring standard over here? Because it's a diverse country.
So for Indian context, actually, I'm proud that the standard which I've been working on this for almost 5 years finally has been, it's not publicly announced yet, finally has been accepted by an organization called IUDX, which is an Indian Urban Data Exchange, which is an initiative of Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. What they're trying to create is that, India took a very pragmatic jugaad approach here. So, which is I think would work. What they did is that instead of rebuilding everything to open source and all these standards is a great idea, but it is not going to work. And I'm not talking about only India, but I faced in other countries in Europe also. So what they did is that they took the existing data, whatever they have, existing systems, and they started collecting the data from those existing systems and kept created a standard portal and an APIs where that APIs and that standard follows this data standard, which is an NGSI LD data standard, which I discussed in my slide set, and it has been a 2.5 year journey for us to get this working. As per their targets, they would be launching this in 60 cities in next 3 years. By end of this year, already 10 cities have been there. As far as I know, I'm not on the implementation side. I'm just on the collaboration side from the European Union HC side. As far as I know, Surat, Pune, Varanasi are the first 3 cities which is actually on this data exchange platform. And a lot of data has been available there. Of course, these guys have still a challenge to convince people to open their interfaces, but that's again a political and an administrative problem. I would say that it's not a technology or it's not something that a standard could help. It's the willingness of the people.
Okay. So we have another question from Australia. Marco is asking, is your vision in smart city innovation, infrastructure and solutions also applies for tourist islands?
Yes, definitely. This is I just give an example on this, and so we have many smart cities which are coming even in Finland. So we ended up going in a difficult path where every city is been choosing their own solution, and every city has their own way of opening an API for it. On the ground level, yes, they are all complying with an European open data policy, which is royalty-free data, which has been provided by a single RESTful API. Technologically, it is a standard which is there. The problem what we had to have is that when I'm in Helsinki, I have to install a different application. When I'm in Tampere city in Finland, I have to install a different application. But what we did is that we are trying to create this a standard where we are thinking about an extent where if you're coming from Bangalore, you have the same access to the data with a single application, but that particular application where you can use the services even in Finland also. So this is the scale which we are talking and which we are thinking about it. And tourist islands, we have smart industry, agriculture. When I talk about the mobility, which is a huge subject right now in European Union, and right now I'm architecting for 3 solutions for 3 different countries in European Union, which is a mobility as a service, which is a multimodal mobility of the services. And it is a huge project. It is again it is 80% of this is not a technical solution. 80% of this is a political will. That whether they want to go for it or not, or whether even though they commit to it, whether they accept to all the policies or not. We have been actually looking into this issue, and it's also it's becoming more and more tourist centric, because we want to change the people use and perceive the whole the mobility. So if I would get a seamless connection with my application which I use from a particular supplier and create an end-to-end transportation guidance for me, end-to-end payment for me. I don't want to use, I don't want, if I use a bike in between, I don't want to use it, pay for a different one. I don't want to pay differently for a bus. I don't want to pay differently for the metro, which I use. Because it is a very huge pain for me as a tourist if I'm into a new city and I try to understand all these payment modules, and especially taking into challenge, another challenge is the language issue, so which I don't understand where to go, how to go, and all these things. So this is one of the major issue, and we want to change the people perceive their mobility, people perceive their day-to-day life, and this is very, very important at this stage. To, the impacts of this one could be huge on the carbon emissions, and yeah, but if you're not able to aggregate this data for all the sectors, for the tourism, for agriculture, industry, utilities, traffic, and we are not able to do this one. And the more data we have, the more context we can extract out of it.
Super. So we have another question from social media. Okay. So blockchain can help smart cities to create integrated solution for the local commerce. Your comments on the same. Do you feel that blockchain will rule in future, or is there any new technology which is going to come up and that will rule?
I'm not an expert on the blockchain on this one, but we are initiating. We have a lot of research going on the blockchain side, where the contextual data has been exchanged. We are tapping into the blockchain network also to extract some of the data into it. At this stage, I cannot say that whether the blockchain will be the only technology which will stay or not. But at least it's definitely a very useful technology to get data which can be used to extract the context. For example, the use case which I just mentioned to Marco's answer, Marco, is that so I want to do a end-to-end purchase for a particular transaction, where I go from one place to another place, and I would use a bus. And if I want to keep fit myself a little bit, and if I have a time, I would also choose in the request that I would like to walk half an hour and maybe bike for 1 hour, and maybe go on a public transport for 1 hour. You can actually do this one, and you can actually do this in Helsinki. I'm proud to say that you can do this in Helsinki right now. And you can set your fitness limits also. So every day I want to walk 10 kilometers. So choose my public transport day-to-day commutation so that I can walk 10 kilometers at least every day. And it will recommend you exactly the same. And when you're doing these things, when you're renting a bike, when you're actually renting an e-scooter, whatever, or a kick scooter, or a car, or a car sharing, there's an end-to-end transaction which is happening. And this end-to-end transaction is very, very, very complicated with different payment interfaces now, because the payment interfaces are not been standardized, and nobody cared at that time, but it's too late to standardize that right now. So what we are doing is that we are actually doing smart contracts with these people, which is again a little bit different topic than a blockchain, but it is a related topic, where we are using, in particular, in one scenario which I can't disclose, but we are using actually a blockchain technology to get this data and make this whole contract and end-to-end transaction. And it works out very well, but at the same time, I would recommend the blockchain society to make things easier for people who are at the age of 65, 75 years old, who are a bureaucrat who has been doing a city work, and he can't understand blockchain. It is very difficult for us to explain him what blockchain is. And unless this technology is made simple and being explained to these people, the political willingness will not come into picture.
Okay, so we have got two more questions from here. Nymphia is asking, the usage of public transportation is restricted during and post the COVID era, and everyone will prefer having personal vehicle for safety. Under such circumstances, how is it possible to maintain the balance between public transportation and to increase it?
So I agree with you. There has been a lot of increase of usage of private vehicles. At the same time, I would actually say that there has been a lot of reduction in the traveling also. So it actually compensated either ways. What we have been observing is that people are very careful, but they are using the taxis. They want to know if the taxi has a shield, a protective shield between the driver, the front seat and the back seat. the buses are now designed so that there is a shield between them, and there are infrared cameras which are kept in the in some cities in Europe. There are infrared cameras which are installed in the buses to ensure that the social distance is being followed. Means, you know, without actually capturing the an image of a person, infrared camera just gives a heat signature of a person, and then they both are looking into each other. And I would say that yes, the pandemic actually created a huge challenge for the public transport at this stage, but I don't see that there is anything expected out of it. Anything which will basically is impacting the usage of public transport. People are using public transport. And a lot of areas have the masks as a restriction. So if there is no mask, they are not allowed into the vehicle, a particular vehicle, and they are even removing some of the seats, or they're actually putting a big cross mark, or they're putting a duct tape on a seat, saying that you're not allowed to sit here, you're only allowed to sit there. And there's ensuring that there's at least 1.5 meters between the people in all the directions where they're sitting in that. So this actually created a huge challenge on a public transportation, because the profitability of public transportation has reduced. But at the same time, I think this is again a policy thing. If the government is taking a particular government is taking very seriously. For example, Italy and Spain are taking this very seriously, so they have put a lot of restrictions on this. And when we go to the Sweden, you don't see that there is a world is having a pandemic at all at the first place. So of course they went on a soft lockdown, saying that not events more than this particular size is not allowed. But I don't see any restrictions in the public transport in Sweden, other than people are motivating themselves to have masks, even though it's not required. When we talk about German and the Central European countries, they are heavily restricting. In any public area you go, you have to have a mask. And in Germany, for example, even though you're walking on a street, you actually have to have a mask. So in Bavaria, the southern Germany part. So it's every different country, every different state inside, even the countries are implementing a different policies on it. But the main challenge for us is that how do we ensure that people are not using this as an excuse and change their habits from the public transport to the private vehicles? This is going to be a huge challenge for us to address in the next years, because a lot of people's habits have already changed. But at the same time, people do use the public transport a lot. So one of the argument which I had, that I was actually going skiing a couple of months ago in the north.
Chandra, my friend, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are 16 questions for you, you know.
Okay, let's go for each.
Yeah, so Dr. Hazel is asking from Australia, digital security is a major concern with smart cities and privacy concerns. What are your thoughts on street cameras watching citizens all the time?
So the street cameras, so when the GDPR kicked in 1.5, 2 years ago in European Union, one of the things what street cameras have been doing is that, so there are two ways they addressed it. One is that the edge technology, where cameras have been replaced in some areas where it gets only the required information. So most of the time, security solutions, except you're in a security area, the police or security, they need a picture. They need a picture of it, but 80% of the time they don't need it. So they need a number of people which are present at that location. They need a profile of a person, not a personal, but how the person is. Is it a female or a male? So they solve this huge GDPR problem, because once you put a personalized data on internet, that's where GDPR kicks in. But if you're processing this data at the camera, for example, and saying that I'm filtering all the data away, I'm only taking what is needed. And that's where actually the solution could be much more smarter. And of course, this This is again, we are not, it's not a client server or a cloud technology where you push all the data to the cloud and then you process there. This actually created a limit that, okay, this data already can be processed at the camera and the location. The other thing is that how government policies are actually acting on this one, on the data security side and the personal data security. And that policy has to be made very clear to the people, and people has to take consent of it. Even the police actually have to take a consent from the people. Hey, there is a future, there is in 10 kilometers down the line, there would be a speeding camera. If you speed, I'm going to take your photo.
Awesome. So there is another question from Ankit. Ankit is from India. Is greeting you. Good morning, Mr. Chandra. I would like to know the impact of person G on smart cities and how important is bandwidth in future. I believe we must mention our bandwidth and maintain our bandwidth before subscribing, signing up for any digital service. Are all smart cities working on a common ecosystem, or we need to be a part of multi-ecosystem in future?
No, all smart cities are actually trying to create a single point of solutions where a person can get all the information and all the solutions at one single place. If I understand you right, that the challenges of the bandwidth, is it coming to a is it Ankit asking about a personal bandwidth, or is it the network bandwidth?
I think the network bandwidth, because
okay, so
in some countries,
bandwidth,
yeah.
So the way this is handled is that when you land in Helsinki, Arjit has been there.
Yeah.
The first big billboard you see is that the Wi-Fi is available everywhere in the city. Please install this application so that you actually are guided for all your services in the city. So you go into the bus, you have a Wi-Fi, seamless Wi-Fi. You don't have to sign again anything. You sign it in a Wi-Fi in an airport. That applies for whole Helsinki city. You are near the bus stop, there's a Wi-Fi. You're in the bus, there is a Wi-Fi.
Yes, that's the way to run any kind of smart city. So we have 14 more questions, but I think we are getting really late. Chandra, I'll request you to stay back with us. Probably we'll take up all those questions if you don't have any issues again, or else if you have if you have to do something else, probably you are busy, we'll shoot these questions to your mailbox. Please stay tuned. Let me welcome Dr. Maya from USA. Maya, if you are there, please turn on your camera and mic.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Good to see you, Maya. That's a beautiful smile that we can see in this early morning in India. So ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Dr. Maya. Maya is a Fulbright specialist, a full professor, and a department chair of the Advanced Management Studies at the Forbes Business School of Business and Technology. Dr. Maya is a global dialogue partner of NAFSA, the world's largest nonprofit association dedicated to international education. Welcome, Dr. Maya. So we have a beautiful topic, eliminating boundaries to create successful global leaders. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Arjit, to you and your entire team for inviting me. It is a beautiful conference, and I think one of its beauties is that we have all these variety of topics. I really enjoyed listening to Mr. Chandra, and I've learned quite a bit. My topic will be absolutely different, which I think is a beauty of these conferences. We all bring our own unique knowledge to the table as we are creating global leadership and the path of successful global leadership. So today, prior to sharing my screen, I would like to just give you a little bit of a general overview. What we started doing as far as the research, I was looking at different things and different concepts that impact work effectiveness and motivation. And one of the factors that are truly impacting global leaders is the concept of perception. So my focus today will be to connect the perception to the successful global leadership and share some of the findings and share some of the concepts that we covered throughout our research on the concept of perception. So now, what is perception? I think we all know that it goes beyond what we see, what we hear, and ultimately believe. It does transcend our senses, and it determines what we do and how we do it. It impacts all the layers of leadership and all of our behavioral patterns, making leaders effective in their work environment. But it is also connected to that fluid concept of business reality. So can we reshape our perception, and should we even attempt to do that? Can we become more responsive in this emerging global world, multicultural, multi-language world? And through doing so, why do we even care to do that? Well, because it helps us becoming better leaders. So the question to ask yourself is, are you aware of your perception? And can you manage it? And should you manage it, and can you manage it effectively? So that is the first thing to question yourself. And do you feel that your work perception is aligned to the concept of business reality? And also ask yourself, is there such a thing as a business reality as we move forward? So I'll let you think about those questions for a second. And can we control our perception? And if we're able to control it, should we attempt to do so? Our perceptions are deeply unique to each one of us. They're deeply embedded into our human condition. But the answer is yes. We can demonstrate how we can reshape our perception. So with that said, I would like to share my screen just a little bit. And I hope everyone can see my screen, so I'm just going to share something real quick. So I think everyone knows this story, but I'm going to repeat it real quick. The two tadpoles are swimming in a pond, and one escapes and goes out there to see the world. As it comes back, becoming a frog, the tadpoles that stayed in the water are saying, "Where did you go?" "Well, I went to see a dry land." "What is dry?" "Well, dry is everything where the water isn't." "And what is water?" So as we look at their experiences, we may question ourselves, well, they are in the water without seeing it. So how does that correlate to the business setting? A lot of times when we are in the midst of something that we're going through, when we're actually trying to understand our own reality, very often we do not understand that we are in the midst of something, in the midst of that water. So we're not able to properly decipher everything and make our decisions. So as leaders, or those of us who are working on becoming leaders, perception and leadership correlate quite a bit. Ask yourself these two questions. Do our perceptions make us better as an employee or as a leader? And if so, how? Several years ago, actually more than several years ago, life goes by pretty quickly. I was in a corporate setting, and one of the middle level managers received a very bad feedback from all the employees that were reporting to him. I was not on his team, but I was observing as he came out of the meeting, and everyone was talking about it. So we kind of knew that he's not a good leader and his team is going to complain about him. I heard him say, "I thought they're very happy with my leadership. I thought I was a terrific leader." Back then I said to myself, how come he's not aware? How come he's not aware how he's perceived by others? He's not aware of his leadership style. He's not aware of how he comes across, and he's not aware as to what he's trying to project. So think about it for a split second. If you're currently in a leadership position, what are you trying to project to your employees? How are you perceived? And is the way they perceive you the way you want to be perceived? And what can you do to reshape that perception if it's in need of tweaking? Because keep in mind, the example I gave you, that leader was not aware that he's actually not a leader. He's not even a good manager. He failed every single leadership parameter. So in a corporate setting, as we were doing our research, perception is correlated to employee effectiveness, employee motivation. Think about a concept of the corporate change. The upper management is communicating change, and they are hoping that everyone is going to be aligned with their perception of what they're trying to project. So their vision is hopefully going to be everyone's vision. Does that always happen? You have 7 employees going to one meeting, coming out of that meeting. One of them is scared, we're all going to lose our jobs. One of them is super excited. Oh no, this was such a good meeting and I really feel energized and hyped up about it. One of them feels indifferent and the 4th one may be completely confused. They don't even know what happened in a meeting. So keep that in mind. As leaders, as we communicate, we may run into several different layers of employee perception. If it's not really aligned to the business reality that we want them to perceive, they may not be working towards a mutual goal. So when it comes to that, it is important for us to be aware whether there is such a thing as a business reality, whether there is such a thing as a true reality. I think everyone knows this story, Plato's Allegory of the cave. You had prisoners chained to the walls of the cave, and their entire life, they were just looking at the reflections on the walls of the cave. The puppeteers were behind them, and they were playing with the puppets, and whatever they saw on the walls of the cave was their reality. That is the only reality they knew. They knew nothing better. They were not aware of anything else other than what they're seeing on the walls of the cave. Think about your own mind. Are you trapped in the cave that your own mind created? Is what you're perceiving a true reality? And why does it matter to you as a leader or the person that is actually aspiring to be a leader? It should matter, because based on our perception, we're making decisions. Based on our perception, we're communicating with people. Based on our perception, we're making and assigning career goals to ourselves and to others. So we need to be aware of that reality. And sometimes we need to stop ourselves, reflect, and realize that our perception is not a reflection of the reality. We have to acknowledge that and then re-reflect on what's really happening within a business world at that moment of time. So what's really impacting our perception? As we did our research, we looked at several different concepts, and we looked at our beliefs, our belief system, our behavioral patterns, and ultimately our culture. As we are born, we're born into this world. We bring with ourselves, and we start getting a lot of cultural norms and parameters of our culture from our parents, from our schools, our religion, the country that we are born and raised within. So that culture is impacting our perception quite a bit. Our behaviors are adjusted throughout life, depending upon our life's experiences. Our belief system, we looked at the concepts of being religious, being spiritual, not being religious, not being spiritual, and how that impacts our perception. The concept of happiness, personality types. We also looked at gender. And there is a difference between how women perceive things versus men. There is a difference between, there's a story about a couple that was looking at the painting, and the painting was of the old barn and an old man sitting in front of the barn. The woman looked at the painting saying, what a beautiful painting. Look at those colors and look how peaceful and relaxing this man is. The man was looking at the same painting saying, wow, that barn needs to be repainted. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on that farm. So oversimplifying our perceptions based on the gender lines would be misleading as well. But we have to acknowledge our differences as we look at different perception parameters. Now, the why of perception. In a business world, the why is to make us more effective, reshaping our perceptions to be less emotional as we're making decisions, and to realistically evaluate a particular situation in order to determine what to do next. Also being aware of our own downfalls, our own personality types, and how sometimes one of us may look at things a little bit darker, or some of us may be looking at things more optimistically at all times. Well, which one is better? Well, everyone says being an optimist is always a little bit better. Is it always though? If the situation is pretty serious, being an optimistic person without actually realizing exactly which steps you're going to take within that situation may hinder your progress as well. In a corporate setting, you have to be aware that no two employees will perceive the things exactly the same. So you have to communicate better. You have to be very clear and concise in your communication patterns. And you also need to understand that everyone's going to look at things a little bit differently through their own lenses, but you have to align the perception in order to make sure that everyone is understanding it fully, what you're trying to convey. The EPIC process is actually a process that we developed through the Power Perception Index. And we're actually having a lot of trainees take the Power Perception Index in order to be aware of their perception and in order to be able to align it as much as possible to the concept of business reality. I'm going to stop the presentation right here because I would like to talk a little bit more about the EPIC process. So I'm going to stop with my slides. So the part of the, so what is the question that we're posing here? Can we shape and alter our thinking to allow our perception to help us become more effective a decision maker and more effective as judges of character? Being a judge of character matters also in a corporate setting. So keep that in mind. So can we adjust our perception and can we reshape it? So the Power Perception Index is going through 4-step process. And we use the word EPIC in order to remember it better because it is evaluation, prediction, interpretation, and ultimately correlation. And I use we a lot. Dr. Diane Hamilton that presented on the concept of curiosity last night or morning your time, we actually co-authored both the research, the index and the book on perception as it relates to the global leaders. So what is the evaluate of the Power Perception Index? In essence, it's being aware of the situation, understanding it, understanding your own beliefs and values, and what do you bring to the table? Assess yourself, evaluate yourself. Don't be that leader that I mentioned, completely unaware how he gets perceived by his employees. Do I come across too strong? Do I come across aggressive? Do I come across emotional? Do I come across too relaxed, not understanding the seriousness of the situation? What are my downfalls? But what are some of the good things that I bring to the table? That is evaluate. Predict. Prediction is about the awareness of yourself and the others in a particular situation. To predict is to draw conclusions and assumptions about the situation and the people you engage with. It is predicting what you're going to do, predicting what you're going to say, understanding others, predicting how they feel about a situation. As a leader, I should never be in a situation where I'm communicating a message and I'm completely unaware how I come across. So here I am, we're going to make this wonderful change within our company. Everyone's going to be excited and I feel really good about myself and I'm not aware that no one's excited. No one's with me. So we have to be good predictors of other people's perception. Interpreting. Interpret is leveraging your emotional intelligence, not just a good plain intelligence, emotional intelligence, and your critical thinking to navigate the evaluation and prediction stage, being able to interpret, understand how you perceive the situation, and have concluded how others might perceive the situation. And then the final element is correlate. And that is the final element of the EPIC process. Take all the sensory input, understand others, understand yourself, predict how they're going to behave, and then analyze and synthesize everything. Now, think about your own organization. How do they score in terms of the EPIC process? Or think about yourself. Which part of the EPIC process do I need some help with? Maybe I'm not a good evaluator. Maybe I'm not self-aware. Maybe I feel I'm being perceived differently than how people perceive me. Predict. Can I predict what others will feel and do and say? I mean, it's never going to be 100%, but if I increase my ability to predict, I'm increasing my success level. The Perception Power Index addresses the critical attributes of emotional intelligence in terms of how we understand oneself and how we perceive others. It is examining our intellectual and reasoning capabilities, which is incredibly important, and also is looking at curiosity, cultural intelligence, and cultural curiosity and cultural quotient. So CQ1 and CQ2. So all of that combined is going to help us improve our perception, reshape it. And in order for us to become successful global leaders, this is one of the concepts that is of incredible importance. I've just completed the presentation portion of this of my summit presentation, and now I'm open to any questions that your audience may have. And you are on mute.
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
So we already got the first question from Dr. Hazel from Australia. Do you think perception and vision are the same?
At times they align. However, they do differ somewhat, because at times I do have a vision, but my perception, the perception of that vision, may not be aligned to what I'm projecting and may not be aligned to what others are trying to see. It is very important, as I'm communicating the vision, that my perception of that vision is aligned to what the other people are going to hear. Because otherwise you have a vision, you don't have the alignment of vision, and your communication may hinder your ability for the others to see that vision, perceive it.
Super. So I have some comments and probably one question to you. When someone starts their own venture, probably as a startup, he or she is a founder of that particular small baby. So they have a lot of affection, a lot of love towards their own venture, towards their own business. But when they put a line like founder and CEO, CEO is basically a post. And the job of CEO is to run the show, whatever it is. So sometimes as a founder, you can't take a shrewd decision, probably with your teammates, probably with your employees, because you're so attached. But as a CEO, at the same time, if you're wearing the same, same hat, you are in the same position, you need to take decisions which might allow you to probably rebuke someone, probably ask someone to leave the organization, or probably fire someone or bash someone, which as a founder, probably it cannot be done. So if we compare both the qualities in one person, how do you define the consequences of leadership in those situations?
Well, it is hard. As a professor, a lot of times I had my students come to me and they're taking business courses in order to open their own business. And a lot of times I would ask them if they've conducted a feasibility study of their business. And a lot of times the answer is no. Because back to your point, they got too attached to the idea. And once they got too attached to their idea, they're so passionate, they're consistently taking the variables that is solidifying their intent to run that business. And they're only focusing that this is going to be such a great success. Feasibility study is therefore very important for them to be really realistic, because keep in mind the perception versus reality, for that reality to be aligned. Now back to your point, when someone conducts a dual role, it is very hard to get detached, and it's very hard not to get emotional. And people that get emotional, it is hindering their ability to make proper decisions. Because emotional individuals are going to make, on both spectrums, positive and negative decisions, a lot of times are not going to be well aligned. Now, ideally speaking, the business will grow to the point where the founder is also not a CEO. The founder is also not a chief financial officer or CIO. I had founders that are 7 roles. So hopefully that business will grow, because it is hard to wear all these different hats, and it is very hard to communicate to people. Because back to Dr. Hazel's question, as you're communicating your vision, if you're too attached to that vision, anyone that is telling you otherwise is perceived as quote unquote enemy versus your friend going along that vision.
Totally agree. Probably I have some more comments, but I can see a couple of questions that's coming up. Kaiser from Dubai, he is asking you, Isn't 360-degree feedback designed exactly for this? To rethink your perceptions, and how effective is it?
Some of the elements, yes. But 360 is looking at many, many different factors. It is touching upon the concept of perception. It is not fully covering the concept of perception. And many of these things through the 360 feedback, I've heard mixed findings actually. It really depends who you're getting a feedback from. Because I had a colleague that recently went through it, and she was encouraged to get a feedback from her employees, a feedback from her bosses, and all that good stuff. I am very reluctant when it comes to that. The reason being is if those employees are currently reporting to you, no matter how you perceive yourself, no matter what you're trying to project, there is a conflict of interest. And there is a little bit of a hesitancy, especially if they're not, and I know a lot of times you're being told, oh, it's completely anonymous, no one's going to know it's you. Employees are still a little bit reluctant. I always suggest for those folks that are doing a very comprehensive 360, get the feedback from the employees that are no longer reporting to you. Get the feedback from your former employees.
True. So I have a comment from one kid from India. He's saying, amazing talk. His name is Kunal from class 9 standard. And I saw a personal text in my WhatsApp from Yash. He's also giving you greetings. He is a class 8 standard student. My God, we are really happy that you guys are joining. Okay, so the next question from Mr. Marco from Australia. How can us corporate global leaders refine and maintain such knowledge and skills, as every market has unique behaviors? Interesting question.
Yeah, I've done research throughout the world, and I've also done lectures throughout the world. So as we go through different business ventures, I think that there are a few simple tips that we all can follow. Nothing revolutionary. Everything that you've heard before and probably practiced prior to me saying this. Number one is having an open mind. Having a full understanding that you're venturing into a culture that you may not be familiar with, being humble, and come from a standpoint of learning. I go to different countries to lecture, but I go there first and foremost to learn. I can learn from my students. I can learn from the partners when I do business consulting that I interact with. So my goal is to learn. When you come with an open mind and with a goal to learn, you are less likely to offend. And if you're less likely to offend, individuals from another place are not going to perceive you as less than humble. They're not going to perceive you as arrogant, and they're not going to perceive you as someone that is projecting himself or herself as perhaps aggressive or superior or more knowledgeable. So I would say that one of the chapters that we did in our book for the research for our book was actually focusing on culture, and was actually focusing on different perceptions in different cultures. I lived in several different countries, not just lectured and studied and researched and done business. I've also lived in several different countries. As you go from one culture to another, there's so many things that we are different on, but there are many more things that we are alike and very similar. Everyone wants to be respected. Everyone wants to be acknowledged. Everyone wants to share their knowledge with others, and have the humble soul and a humble heart open to the learning process, and you will be able to be successful global leader.
Super. So we have a Twitter message for you, Maya. 3 actually in a continuous process. Number 1 is a compliment. You are looking great.
Thank you.
And that's coming from Oman. And a question to you is how important to smile always as a leader, or shall we rethink our expression before any kind of communication if I want to become a future leader? Means him.
He was talking about the expressions, like a verbal expressions.
Yes.
It really depends. I don't like scary people. I don't believe in scary, aggressive leadership. That works in a short time span. That does not work in the long run. I feel that, well, I smile all the time anyways. That's my personality type. So don't do anything that you don't usually do. Because if someone comes in forcing a smile or doing something that is out of their character, that comes across. I would say be genuine. When it comes to your expressions, when it comes to your behavioral patterns, everyone notices I cannot talk without my hands. If I suppress that, I'm no longer me. So be yourself within reason. Control some things that may not be the best things, but I would say be yourself. And I think that old autocratic leadership style of being very serious and very stern and very aggressive, with so many people that I had throughout my life in the world of business reporting to me, being my employees, I've accomplished more with a smile and a gentle word than one can accomplish with being aggressive, being autocratic, or ask people for their opinions, delegate tasks, get their input, get them to have the vested interest in what you're doing. And I'm a big advocate of a servant leadership. And that is what I'm trying to practice. That doesn't work for everyone. So there are many different leadership styles that you can pursue, but find your own unique style. And I've never went wrong with a smile, no matter the country, no matter the culture. You open up with a smile and somehow everyone smiles back.
True. Okay, a question from Raj. Raj is from engineering college. Can you name few perception parameters and their weightage in analysis?
Yeah, what we were looking at 4 different factors that I was talking about, and they're the actual we're digging through, because I didn't want this lecture to be too academic, especially this late at night, because I was saying to myself, the vast majority of my U.S. colleagues are probably asleep, and those of you that are still early morning, I don't want to have an academic lecture. I wanted to have a conversational one. But we were looking at the factors. We were actually dwelling quite deep into the concepts of emotional intelligence, critical thinking skills, curiosity, and cultural quotient. So the perception power index actually is statistically, it is validated through the statistical parameters, and it's actually has a high degree of accuracy. We tested it amongst hundreds of participants, and the biggest feedback that we got was that they were quite aware of how they perceive things in a corporate setting. We're focusing on business setting. However, the index can be applicable in a personal setting as well, in your personal life. However, do keep in mind, we are different in a personal venue versus a business venue. So we're focusing for this index to be applied within a business world for the most part. So they were saying that they were becoming more aware, and they were becoming aware of things that they can reshape and tweak a little bit. For the most part, we're realistic people. So in a business world, we know what goes, what doesn't go, but sometimes we're not well equipped to handle things. For example, when I was doing the research myself and with my colleague that I've already mentioned, we realized that in couple of the business settings, the work settings, our perception was quite a bit different. And it had nothing to do with what was said, what was done. It had to do with our life experiences, our backgrounds, and also our culture. So being aware of it is half of the how. And we also, in this world, we do not want everyone to perceive things the same, because that would actually take away from the beauty of our world. But we want to make sure that in a business setting, what are companies trying to do? Increase the effectiveness of their employees, increase motivation, and ultimately increase productivity. So that is why perception matters to the business leaders. But in your personal life, any life venue, you want to make sure that what you're perceiving is aligned to what the reality is in order to make business, not just business, in order to make good decisions.
Super. So we have around 21 questions more, but I'm really sorry. We need to skip a couple of them, but maybe I'll take only one more question, which is there in the chat box. We'll be skipping the social media because she's there pretty active in social media. We can always redirect all your questions to her. And she's a great human being, a great soul, to be very honest. That's one of the best quality of a successful leader. Well, Ankit is asking, I believe a leader should be a good listener. Can we train someone to be a leader? How a leader should motivate and get the best work from their team, especially during pandemic?
Yeah, that is also one of the things. Being a good listener helps you predict that out of the epic process that I've explained. The P of epic is predict. You cannot predict the perception of others without listening to others. Do not, I mean, it's a cliche phrase, do not focus on what you're going to say next. Focus on what the other person is saying. During the times of pandemic, I mean, globally, we all went through, we can all agree that 2020 was not a good year. And we all had to readjust our leadership styles and our styles as employees. It is impossible to be a good leader without being able to listen to your employees. This is a little bit off topic, but we hear a lot about, especially nowadays, about the concept of toxic positivity. A lot of times people are forcing themselves not to acknowledge the moment, not to acknowledge the stress, in order to project themselves as being consistently positive. Well, that can get to the point where it's being toxic. It is okay to say, I'm not doing well. We have not been going out much in 2020. Many of us that travel, we didn't have a chance to travel. Some of us had the loved ones that were sick. I mean, it is okay to acknowledge that. So you cannot suppress that with your employees. So allow them to acknowledge the moment and then focus and rechannel to the business matters. The other question, the other layer of this question is a little bit more complex because it deals with that nature versus nurture. I think you need both. And I think that you can teach someone to be an incredible manager. It is a little bit more difficult to teach someone to be an incredible leader. Some of it has to come within. Some of it has to be a little bit of a natural talent. A lot of it is teachable. A lot of behavioral patterns have to be tweaked. But being in tune with your own perception, how you project, how you perceive, how others perceive you is one of the good things to start with.
Super. So there is a greetings. Let me, give you that greetings, and then we'll be shifting to our next speaker, Poonam Mundra from Calcutta, India. She's telling you that it's an impactful session, and thank you, Dr. Maya, for this. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Maya will be shifting to the next speaker, and I'll ask you to kindly be with us for the rest of the day because we have an amazing speaker. I can see that she is there already, Farah from Malaysia, and we're having Nofer from Israel. She'll be joining from Dubai probably. Okay, so here we go. We have Mr. Joseph with us. Mr. Joseph is from 1978 batch of Indian Administrative Service, Kerala Credit. Earlier, he had been selected to the 1977 batch of Indian Police Service, added to Kerala. He joined the Indian Police Service and completed his training at Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Police Academy, Hyderabad. It's a huge, huge, huge profile that he possesses, and he is an excellent speaker. Mr. Joseph, sir, the stage is yours. Could you please turn on your mic so that we can hear you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharya. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I was listening to Ms. Maya, and I was delighted at some of the things she said about smiling, about the not thinking about your next answer when you are being when somebody is talking to you. I think it was lovely listening to her. Thank you so much. I'm extremely delighted today, Mr. Bhattacharya, to share my views with this global audience on the social impact of the COVID pandemic in India. But firstly, let me congratulate this effort at the Global Leaders Summit. It's an effort of extraordinary proportions, I believe, covering about 110 speakers from about 24 different categories. And the speakers are from all over the world, and maybe about 100 countries are involved. That's a stupendous, mind-boggling effort. And it's of great importance, and a great deal of courage goes into it. I congratulate you personally, Mr. Bhattacharya, and your entire team, and I wish them good luck. In the last 3 days, I've tuned in and listened to a few speakers, and I've realized that you have, how do I call it, gold standard speakers here. I've learned a great deal on a variety of subjects in these last 2 or 3 days. and in the short time I heard them. My only regret has been that I've not had the time to listen in to more of the leaders from speaking from across the globe. Thank you then for this opportunity to speak to such an erudite global audience. As you said, I'm a former Indian civil servant, which you described very well. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'd like to also to say that I worked in the ILO, I think you mentioned it, I worked in the UN for 20 years in the International Labour Organization on children's education, on child labor, on skills for older children, skills for women and girls, women and entrepreneurship, microfinance for women, self-help groups for mothers and for women, on a variety of topics. I work closely with people like Kailash Satyarthi, who is the Nobel Peace Laureate on child labor, and with Swami Agnivesh and others. I've also written a book. I spent 7 years in Cambodia, and I wrote a book on Cambodia. Cambodia was coming out of a genocidal experience when I went there in 2005, and I could see the guilt of the past getting overridden by the young people there wanting to be like the Thais or the Singaporeans or the Hong Kongians or people, other countries in Southeast Asia. And I wrote a book which, sorry for the self-promotion, it's called My Driver Too Long and Other Tall Tales from a Post-Pol Pot Contemporary Cambodia. It's a wonderful exposition of Cambodia, which is a country which we do not know much about. And it's a country which is coming out of a genocidal regime very, very successfully. Right, enough about myself. I'm speaking today on the social impact of the COVID pandemic in India. The medical impact of the epidemic, of the pandemic, is available across the country and everybody knows it very well. As of yesterday, there were 9.67 million COVID positive cases in India, nearly a crore, nearly 10 million. The good news of this is that out of this, 9.2, that is nearly, that is 9.18 to be exact, have recovered. They've been tested COVID negative. But India might possibly soon cross the 10 million mark. And the tragic part of it is that there'll be nearly 140,000 deaths, or more than 140,000 deaths, which is about the third or the fourth largest in the world. At the moment, India has less than 400,000 positive cases, which is very good. As of yesterday, it was 383,000, which is excellent, and which is one of the lowest figures in the last 5 months or so. The daily recoveries today are much higher than the daily positive cases. Meanwhile, government of India has already got the Pfizer has sought approval for its virus, and I'm sure the virus will be available in India pretty soon. The drug regulators in India might give emergency approval if they are satisfied about the results of the trials. These figures, unfortunately, so things are positive. I think we have hit the bottom. We are going to rise up from the valley very soon. And these figures are very encouraging or discouraging the way you look at it. But while these figures can be impressive or disconcerting, as I said, depending on the way we look at it, what is important is to understand what these figures might be hiding. Firstly, getting the right statistics in a country like India is a very humongous task. Especially difficult are statistics related to diseases that have a social stigma attached to them, which is very difficult indeed. I have worked in the districts, and I know how difficult it is. The system of collection is that the village officer or a patwari sits in the village office, and he's got a general sense of what's happening and writes out figures. It's not a head count. And then that's passed on to the taluk or the tehsil, that's passed on to the district, that's passed on to the state, and it's collated at the national level. And in a country like India, the figures are often way off the mark. And especially with diseases which have a social stigma attached to it, like COVID, the actual figures will be far higher than the recorded figures. And now, if you look at similar diseases like leprosy and AIDS, these are diseases which are difficult to hide after a certain period of time. Because leprosy you can't hide, AIDS also after a period of time you cannot hide it. But it's much easier to hide a disease like COVID and go around insisting that I'm not suffering from COVID, that is just a common cold, that it's pneumonia and so on. Mostly in the rural situation, the diseases could be passed off as asthma or breathlessness or whatever. This is because many victims of the disease like COVID would like to live in denial. And even if they don't, because and if they don't want to live in denial, they're scared of letting others know that they have the disease. And even if they would like to be treated, families would try and hide the disease from their friends and neighbors, fearing a social boycott. Thus, the disease and even a death from COVID would be passed off as a death from cold, pneumonia, old age, breathlessness, or because of pre-existing comorbidities. What a nicely morbid word. And the local officials and government would also not be too averse to encouraging, at least not discouraging, such wrong statistics. They would be interested in showing a lower rate of positive cases within their jurisdiction. And as these figures gets passed on up the hierarchy, the aggregation of positive cases becomes much far from the real figures. The lower figures are given because of a wrong sense that which they believe that it would show the efficiency of their preventive steps. And which authority in government anywhere would like to show a high COVID figure in a country like us? The economic impact of COVID, let me come to that. I'm going to speak about the social impact, but a social impact of a disease like COVID cannot be fully understood without understanding very quickly the economic impact of COVID. I'll briefly touch upon the economic impact after underlining the fact, what I said earlier, that the figures that we now have in our hands may be far from the truth. It may double that, triple that. I don't know, could be 5 or 10 times more than that. I'm not a person to speak about it, but it will not be the realistic figures. Now, the economic impact of COVID, everybody knows the economic impact of COVID. I don't have to re-emphasize it. It's been an unprecedented drop in growth. The economic impact of COVID is just that. Now, if you want to have an understanding of the situation, in 2010, the growth of GDP in India was 10%, plus 10%, which is one of the highest in the world. In 2020, that is 10 years later, today, the growth of GDP has come down to minus 10%. This sort of a fall of 10% growth per annum, from 10% growth to minus 10% growth in a period of 10 years is unprecedented. It's one of the steepest falls in any country in the world, even in the age of COVID. The fall in growth in a country like India, where GDP figures would also be hiding a lot of disparities. GDP, as you all know, is the gross domestic product. Per capita GDP also would hide disparities, because if you have 5,000 billionaires in the country, then the GDP would shoot up, but there could be many millions of poor and hungry. So a GDP is not the true measure of the disparity between the rich and the poor. In a country like India has a lot of disparity between the rich and the poor. And I emphasize this because in a disease like COVID, the social impact of COVID can be particularly pronounced upon people who are poor, people who are not well off. And therefore, a GDP growth or the lack of growth is not a true indication of how it impacts the social impact of COVID. Nevertheless, it is one of one of the possible indicators of it, and that itself is not a very good augury. Now, what happens with the loss of growth? There's a loss of jobs, there's a loss of business, the businesses close, there's greater unemployment, and so on. So there's been a widespread job loss in India during the period of COVID, and of course, immediately before that, because of various other policy issues, which I would not go into here. The Kerala Management Association's K. Madhavachandran, who is its president now, in an article which I read this morning, says that there have been 40 million job losses in the country. Now, even if we consider just 4 persons being dependent on one job earner, one income earner, then we are talking about 150, 160 million people across the country whose lifestyles have been impacted by such job losses, whose incomes are fallen, whose food basket has declined, whose ability to send children to schools, etc., have come down. The impact has been widespread. But then if I were to pick one particular social group which has been impacted most, I would say the most severe has been on our migrant workers, especially our migrant workers in India's metropolitan cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Calcutta, Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. The impact on the migrant workers is also widespread in smaller cities like mine own. I'm speaking from Cochin in the southwest corner of Kerala, God's own country. It's been rampant. The impact of migrant laborers leaving jobs here and going back to their homes in Bihar and UP and Odisha and West Bengal has been quite severe here. It is also therefore severe in cities like Mysore, Jaipur, Pune, the second grade cities, the next grade of cities lower than the metropolitan. Migrant labor, we must understand, has been one of the important pillars of the Indian economy, because they run a lot of factories, a lot of small businesses, a lot of they run the economy in many ways. And the impact of migrants will have and the return of the migrants, the lack of migrants, the impact, social impact of COVID on migrants, of the pandemic on migrants, will have a severe impact on not only in these metros and places where they work, where the economy will be affected, but also in rural parts of UP, Bihar, Orissa, West Bengal, etc., where they come from, because remittances which they send regularly would come down. So there's an economic impact which is very greater than what we can immediately see. Let me now move on to the core of my subject, the social impact of COVID. The social impact of COVID, the social impact of a pandemic, we must understand, would be far slower to impact than the economic impact. The economic impact happens very soon. You drop down into the valley, but equally the economic impact will be the growth. It touches the bottom. The economic impact touches the bottom, and we start to see economy grow very soon, much sooner. But the social impact, the economic impact will be felt immediately, but we must understand that the social impact of any pandemic, and especially will be felt much slowly. It will take years for the social impact to be felt. But while any negative economic impact you will recover from it, an economy will recover from it very quickly, the social impact, and especially the negative social impact of a pandemic, will take a far longer route to recovery, if at all. Now, when I speak of social impact, we must understand that there are positive social impacts, because of social impact because of COVID, and also negative impact. Both are possible. Of course, in cases like this, the negative impact overrides the positive impact, but both are there. There are positive impacts as well, which as we go along, I'll try to explain a little bit. But the point I'm making here at the beginning is that the social impact of a pandemic will be much more long-lasting, and at times may even be permanent. And that's something we should understand. Whereas economic recovery will be much faster. You hit the bottom of the valley fast and then start coming out. But social impact is much slower. Now, let's look at the social impact of COVID in a country like India. One of the first is the isolation of families where there have been COVID deaths. And remember, India has had about 140,000 plus, or about 1.5 lakhs, as we call it here, COVID deaths. This means that we have about 150,000 families that are likely to be socially stigmatized in the next few months, if not in the next few years. Such isolation of families with COVID has a social dimension that cannot be ignored. And these 150,000 or so deaths, 140,000 actually, would not have been easy for the families. The death itself would not have been easy for the families. There's a lack of dignity in death when it comes to COVID. Dying alone in a COVID ward can have delayed impact on the families. We are not allowed to see the patient. We are not allowed to see the person who is dying. We are not allowed to see them even after death. So there's a feeling of guilt in this 140,000 families, a feeling of remorse at not being able to present during those dying moments of their dear ones. And that's likely to last in such families for a long time. A closure, I hate the word closure when it comes to death, but a final closure would be very late in coming for such families, because they don't see their dead bodies. They don't have the opportunity to cremate them, to give them a decent burial, and so on. So a final closure, I hear the word closure where death is concerned, I repeat it, but still I believe that a final closure would be very late in coming for families where there have been COVID deaths. A social system where, in India, social death was a social event, where you wept and cried aloud in public, where you gnashed your teeth and moaned loudly in public, has now become a very private affair, a secret affair. That will have a great impact on the close relatives of the departed, especially if the person was a wage earner in the family and was, say, 50 years or below, or if it is a very respected elder. To a certain extent, this could also be true of families that have had positive cases but no deaths. And there have been about 10 million, or nearly 10 million, or 9.67 million last heard of such cases in the country. This means that we have a good number of families, maybe 5 million plus, 7 million plus, I don't know, who may possibly suffer from such isolation by their neighbors, or in office, or in society, because when it comes to be known that somebody has had had a COVID death, has been a COVID positive here, there is this general social stigmatization, unfortunately. Social ostracization can have very bad consequences. So we are talking of a social ostracization of a very large number of people, of families. Now, such social ostracization, stigmatization, will result in what I would call a social phobia, a homophobia, a reluctance on the part of a family that has suffered a death to socialize, a reluctance to meet others. That can have bad consequences in the long run. And to add to that, the cost of treatment that the family had to go through. Cost of treatments are expensive, and the financial distress on the one hand, plus the cost of treatment on the other. And now the vaccine has come, things may look up, but the vaccine is not, I believe, going to be free. So the cost of vaccine can also be an issue in a social situation where there's extreme job losses, 40 million, as I said, extreme job losses. And these are things which can have tremendous social impact. Now, there's been a change, there will be a change in the social life of an Indian. Social life has changed completely, and some of this change will continue in the future. In India, in the West, especially in cold climates, people are individualistic. In India, we have a much more social life. We are a very gregarious society. We like to talk to people and so on. Warm climates produce a very more gregarious society. Cold climates produce individualism. Why do I say that? It's my theory. I think because it's cold, say in November, December, January, February, or wherever it is, you tend to sit in your house and possibly in your room and spend your time alone, maybe with your books, with your writings, with your laptop or whatever. So you tend to be more with yourself. And that gives rise to a form of individualism, which is so clearly seen in the West. But in a warm country like ours, we hate to sit in our homes, which are so hot and warm. We go out, we meet people. Gregariousness, social life has been always a cornerstone of Indian society. Everything, therefore, for people in India, because of the warm climates as opposed to the individualism of the West, because, as I say, coming from its cold climate, everything is a celebration for us. Diwali is a celebration, Ramzan is a celebration, Christmas is a celebration, 10 days of puja is a celebration, Ganapati puja is a celebration, Holi is a celebration, everything is a celebration. Weddings are celebrations. Why at times even deaths are celebrations. No wonder the Kumbh Mela is the largest human gathering anywhere in the world, because everything we get together, we love to be in groups. And therefore, whereas the people from cold climes are at their best as individuals, perhaps we in India are best in groups. And our joint families are a reflection of this. You have large families of brothers, uncles, granduncles, and their children, grandchildren, children of grandchildren, everybody living together under one roof. It's changed now, but that was the sort of family joint, big fat joint families that we were used to. Maybe this is all because of climate, but that means that the social distancing, the need to be with, the inability to be with each other because of social distancing has had a tremendous negative impact, will have a tremendous negative impact in a country like India, because all that has changed now. We are unable to move out very much and be in groups and so on. Now, one of the first things that you can see about this is the disappearance of the big fat mega Indian weddings. We used to have weddings of 300, 400, 500,000 people. Guests, today we have small weddings, 25, 50 and so on. Indian weddings now look like weddings in Europe and the US, and are limited to the immediate family and closest friends, and only are invited. As I said, Indians are highly social, communal in a very positive way, not communalism, but communal as in coming together as a community. Individualism, as I said, has never been a hallmark, but such community coming together during festivals, during marriages, why even during deaths, will be, I think, a thing over the past, even with vaccine coming in. We are basically people. Indians are basically people who do not know very much what to do as individuals. We don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know what to do when we are alone. We do not know what we are best in gregarious groups, talking, laughing, eating, drinking, and even crying together. Crying and beating of chest is a part of any Indian death. Sorrow is shared together socially and jointly. Now, all the social impact of COVID is that this sort of community togetherness of coming together of extended families that has been a hallmark of the country, and Indian social life will be highly restricted in the future, which of course will have a tremendous social impact. Social distancing is unnatural to an Indian. Joy and sorrow brings us together. The absence of joy and sorrow also bring us together. The impact of having to be alone for an Indian is not something that has been studied. It can be safely deducted that being someone or something that he's not used to or she's not used to, the Indian would find spending days and months alone or with the immediate family highly disturbing and depressing. Social distancing is terrible anywhere, but it is much more in a gregarious society like ours. It can be very disturbing. Now let me move on to what happens to another aspect of the issue, another social aspect, the impact of job losses, impact of employment, losses of employment, impact of loss of businesses and incomes. With a minus 10% growth, there will be a severe impact on jobs, as I said, business and employment. This will have a huge negative impact on the income of individuals. This will lead to a host of individuals and families being impacted very negatively. You can certainly look at situations where there'll be a rise in psychosomatic diseases, rise in depression, there will be a rise in suicides and so on. It is something that will have a tremendous, these are something that is likely to happen in the future. How, when, and how much is not something that can be said with any degree of certainty now. The world of work will change. Much has been written about working from home. Working from home, WFH, will continue in a big way, what with corporates having discovered that as an economical way to get work done. So we will not fully revert back to working from offices as we used to before COVID. Instead, work from home will also be the new norm, with only occasional meetings in offices, say once in a week or once or twice in a month. So working from home is going to be a reality even in future, even post-COVID, and it will have a social impact. Gig work, where an employee will work for many different employers on a time-rated wage basis, will increase. Gig work, for those who may not know, are freelance workers like actors, musicians, independent contractors, photographers, project-based workers, and so on, who are part-time temporary hires. For example, a worker who's paid by an hour in a bar or a restaurant is a gig worker. So that is going to increase in the future with its attendant uncertainty. And similarly, platform work. Platform work is when you use a platform such as Uber to bring the customer who needs a service and a service provider together, like a person with a taxi and being able to drive. So a platform work will also increase, and the gig economy and platform economy are likely to rise, and both of them have a degree. They have advantages, of course. There are tremendous advantages. I can work at my pleasure. If I don't want to work on a Monday, if I don't want to work today, if I don't want to work, if I want to go on a holiday, I can do it at my will. So gig work and platform work has tremendous advantages, but they come with a disadvantage of, in a highly competitive labor market, it comes with a disadvantage of not getting enough jobs. In a market, in an economy that is going down or has already hit the bottom, the disadvantage, of course, is that you don't find as much of gig work or platform work as you used to before COVID. So contract labor is going to increase, even in major offices, even within government systems. Contract work, not only labor, contract work for 1 or 2 years, renewable on depending on requirement of that job and performance, instead of long-term pensionable employment where you join Tata's or you join government and you work for 30 years and retire at 60 or 65 or whatever. That is going to disappear. This will be a trend not only in big corporates, which is already there, but across the board and even in government jobs. Let me move on. There's going to be, of course, this is the impact on work. Let me move on to impact on families and individuals. Increased dependence on social media, including we have already seen that happen during the time of COVID, and that's going to increase in the future. We're not going to revert back. Increased dependence on social media will lead to an increase in fears, in anxieties, panic, and stress. Increased use of social media will also include greater use of gaming softwares, gambling softwares, use of pornography, and so on. With people isolated in homes during the COVID pandemic, people have, there's been a tremendous tendency to depend on the social media very disproportionately. This is unlikely to be a temporary phenomenon. Even post-COVID, the dependence on on the smartphone, on social media, for good and bad, would only increase. Indian society will accelerate its slow movement towards greater individualism thereby, because you are going to now, instead of the climate driving you to sit alone, the smartphone is going to drive you to individualism, because you and the the smartphone are going to be together. The rest of the world doesn't exist. It's you and the software that are communicating with the rest of the world. Your father, your mother, your son, your daughter, they don't exist anymore very much. So this sort of individualism is also going to increase in India, and that will have a social implication in the future. Communal activities which used to be physical pre-COVID will move more and more and become virtual and online rather than physical, as is now happening with this global leader summit, which is happening online, virtually, with none of us having met each other. And most of us unlikely to meet each other, will become the order of the day. The man and his smartphone, or the woman and the smartphone, will become one and operate as an individualized system. So the move towards individualism in Indian society will also gain acceleration. Impact on children. The impact on children is going to be very pronounced. Schooling and education has changed unrecognizably. Online education, which was only a year ago a fad, 2 years ago a fad, you had a Byju's or whatever, has now become a norm today. From the Gurukul system, which we are used to, Gurukul, for those who do not know, from outside India, is a system where the student, 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, the students went and lived with the teacher, the Guru, in their house for months together and learned at the feet of the master. That was called the Gurukul system. Kul means house, Guru means the teacher's house. Now, from there, we adopted, as across the world, the Macaulayan system of school education, where both the teacher and the student went to a common place, Monday to Friday, 10 to 5, and learned there. From the house of the Guru to a common place where the Guru, the teacher, and the student met. Now we have moved a full circle, or maybe 180 degrees, and we have come to a system where the teacher comes to the student's house, the teacher comes to the child's house, or virtually, of course. So it's the very opposite, or the antithesis of the Gurukul system. It's a very opposite of this. If I may coin a word, a Shishyakul, where it's a student in the house system that is happening. It's an Uberization of education, with brick and mortar education edifices becoming more and more rare, and possibly becoming very rare in the future. School buildings will in future be used very sparingly, and there'll be shared school buildings, shared playground, shared classrooms will become the norm, with a very large portion of teaching going online. The use of blockchain technology, about which we discussed a couple of days ago in this very forum, is today confined to banking and finance, will take over education in a big way and aid this process of online education. The social impact of this on children will be very pronounced. Peer-to-peer education will decrease considerably. Student-teacher bonding might even disappear or decrease considerably. With a child at home, there will be, of course, parenting issues. There'll be parenting issues, which for the parent. And there's a possibility, of course, that with the child being at home, the parent-to-child bonding will increase greatly, but the opposite is more likely to happen. With work from home, cooking, cleaning, and everything else happening at home, the continuous presence of children and parents at home, but most of the 24 hours of the day, can be explosive, especially where teenage children and young adults are concerned. So these are some of the very quick impact that I'd like to speak about children. Let me move on fast. Family. Problems within the family will increase with the inability to go out into public spaces and cooped up in a small flat. Family tensions will increase. The opportunity to let out steam, go and meet friends, go to a restaurant, go to a bar with friends are situations for letting out steam. Problems in the family, travel restrictions will have also been impacted. So socially, then there is likely to be an increase of tensions within the family, and perhaps an increase in divorces. Not perhaps, certainly, in the next few years. That could be a trend that would continue even thereafter. Similarly, we are also likely to be faced with greater issues of abuse within the family, child abuse, and so on. Family disputes will increase, leading to heavier burden on dispute resolution forums, family courts, etc. And the trend towards individualism, which we have been beginning to see in India, albeit in a very limited manner, will begin to increase post-COVID. Yesterday, I was listening to Dr. Sahu speak about food insecurities because of COVID, and that is something which I think we should touch upon. I will not touch upon. I'll touch upon very briefly. Food insecurities will enhance, and food security can become a terrible insecurity there. Poverty, lack of food on my plate can be a tremendous insecurity. I don't think there's a possibility of food riots or things like that, but lack of food will get reflected in a variety of ways. And there will be a tendency to hoard food stuff. There will be behavior which is not compatible with what we have known pre-COVID. If food insecurity continues, I hope it doesn't happen. Now, what happens if there is a second wave of COVID or a third wave of COVID? Lack of time, I'm going to wind up very quickly. The possibility, however remote, of a breakdown of medical care, medical and caregiving systems, in case there is a second wave or a third wave of COVID, cannot be ruled out. Now, if that happens, then there can be social unrest. With the number of COVID cases coming down immediately in India, that is not an immediate possibility. But if there should be a second wave or, God forbid, a third wave, that is something that we should consider. With vaccines playing a part, even when a second wave hits, perhaps we will be in a better position to take care of it. But if things do go wrong, then there is the likelihood of medical breakdowns, hospital breakdowns, medical care breakdowns. There could be even breakdowns of policing, of crime control, of law and order control, of administrative breakdowns. If, as a country, as a society, India has to prepare for the worst, and it's best to prepare for the worst so that even if it happens, we're on solid ground. I think we have to prepare for the worst case scenarios like administrative breakdowns, and should drop contingency plans to meet such breakdowns if, God forbid, there should be such a breakdown. One of the other aspects of a pandemic, social impact, which I must touch upon, is the possible xenophobia against specific groups, ethnic groups, religious groups, minority groups, geographical groups, etc. And if there is a breakdown of administration, if the breakdown of policing, the xenophobia, along with even a partial breakdown of administrative systems, can mean a loss of life or property on a widespread scale. So there's a need to look at a possible worst case scenario and for us to be prepared for it, prepare contingency plans for it. Now, let me conclude by saying that we talk of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. I think we also should now be looking at a possible post-traumatic social disorder, PTSD itself, but after this, there can be, after this sort of a social disorder that has taken place, there could be, for society, there could be post-traumatic stress. Lockdown has had a tremendous psychosocial impact on societies. There's been a COVIDization of society. There's been isolation and despondency among individuals, among families. There's been a loss of incomes, loss of jobs, loss of employment, loss of businesses. There's been irrational fears. How do I get my next food on my table? The next month, what do I do? How do I pay my EMI, my home loan, my car loan, my scooter loan? There've been, some of them are rational fears, but most of them could even be irrational fears. There could be homophobia, a fear of meeting people, fear of travel and the impact of travel. So these are things that produce this sort of a social disorder, post-trauma, and that's what I would like to. So let me conclude. I think I can see Mr. Bhattacharya come online. What I would like to then conclude is to suggest to ourselves, to governments, and especially to the governments in India and the state governments, that we need to understand the possibility of these happening and develop a comprehensive social policy to mitigate the social impact of COVID, a policy that is developed by experts, caregivers, NGOs, healthcare systems, and so on. That's a very important aspect of what we have to do at this point, here and now. Let me conclude. I would like to talk more about it.
Thank you so much for the excellent speech. So we are open for Q&A. I can see that Professor Ujjwal is already there, and I can see our next panelist is already there. Farah, welcome to WLS. Thank you so much for joining us. So the first question probably will be asked by Professor Ujjwal. He is already there, turned on his camera. For the sake of time, we'll be taking only 2 questions and then move to the next speaker. Professor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. It's a fabulous speech, fabulous talk. Lot of facts and figures and lot of correct judgments in a way. Coming straight to the question, due to lack of time, there is possibility of a rise of a surveillance state and decline in human rights and democratic rights of people under the garb of COVID, combating COVID. So, do you see the rise of a surveillance state? And what impact would it have on society? One. And you also spoke about the economic impact. Can we suggest 3 concrete measures which can be taken in the next quarter by the government to mitigate the economic impact? Because India hasn't taken major steps, in spite of the talk of major relief measure, hasn't taken steps like those in Germany or in UK. So what 3 concrete economic steps can be taken to mitigate the economic crisis of COVID?
Thank you so much, Dr. Chowdhury, for your question. Thanks for the nice words, kind words. Thank you so much. The surveillance state did not happen as a result of COVID. It was already happening because of a great technology. Technology enabled a surveillance state to come up. And I'm not speaking of India or of China. It's right across the world. It's much easier to impose, I don't get the right word, but to spy on people, even in a nice, positive way, today than 20 years ago, because of the rise of technology. But COVID, pandemic, has been a catalyst to that. A pandemic creates fear, and fear is the best way to control people. And a fear can be used to put in a system of permanent surveillance, which post-COVID, nobody will dismantle. And that's a tragedy of COVID, that a system of surveillance which was being put into place across the world has now, which had there been no COVID, would have been opposed, would have been slowed down, may even have been tracked, stopped, or considerably slowed down in its move forward, has today, because of COVID and using the fear of COVID, death and contagion and so on, is being used to speed up that process. And the tragedy of a surveillance state is that it's very difficult to dismantle it, as we see in China, Korea, and other places. And and as I've seen in COVID, as I've seen in Cambodia, I mentioned about my book, The Time in COVID. Of course, without technology then, 40 years ago, there was a surveillance state in a very crude manner. Today, it's much more sophisticated, and it's a sad reality that a surveillance state is unfortunately quite a possibility. I hope better sense will prevail, that it will not happen, because surveillance is like a blade. You know, a blade can cut both ways. It has got 2 edges. Unlike a knife normally has only 1 edge. Now, a surveillance state can be used by today's people in the opposition to put those in power today, when they get into the opposition, in the same very difficult position that the opposition today is. And it's a double-edged sword. It's like a blade. So it's something that should be avoided, especially in democratic societies like us. I'll move on to your second question. I'm not an expert in economy, but I can't give you 3. I mean, I'll give you one which might take a little longer than, and therefore I'll avoid 3. Long ago, I read a comic book. It was a Donald Duck comic book, Uncle Scrooge. Uncle Scrooge had started these entertainment, the forerunner of these entertainment parks that we have. And he had opened one, he had spent a lot of money on that, but nobody was coming in because the entrance fee was $30 or something. Nobody was coming in. Then he gave a advertisement in the newspaper saying, look, anybody who comes in with a family of 4 children, I'll give $50 free. You can spend it as you want, cash. So initially they didn't believe it. First few families came, and then Uncle Scrooge gave them $50, and then the news spread and people started coming in. Everybody got these $50. They went in with their children, 3, 4 children, and they spent not $50, they spent $70, $100, $200. I read the comic as a child, and the second my memory, it didn't make any sense then. Today it makes a lot of sense for me. What it really means is it's important to give money to the people at the very bottom of the pyramid. They are the people who don't have money to spend. You and I have. People at the bottom of the pyramid, and there are many millions of them in a country like ours, many crores of them. And if we put money into their hands, they will spend it. And when they spend it, businesses will open, factories will open, small enterprises will open, jobs will come in. When jobs come in, payments will be made, wages will be made, money will come into the economy. The economy, which is into a bad, vicious circle, going from plus 10% to minus 10% in 10 years, will begin to move up the economy. Put money in the hands of the poor, where they will spend. If you give me, 500,000 rupees, I'll put it in the bank. I won't spend it. You give 500 rupees to a poor person, he will spend it. You give 1,000 rupees, he'll spend it. He'll spend more. So that is the one that will rev up the economy, kickstart the economy. And I think that is something which we have never thought of in a large scale. I'm not an economist, but I think Uncle Scrooge was a great economist, or at least Walt Disney was. You can see how successful he has been. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Joseph, I'll be requesting you to probably look at the camera for 2 to 3 minutes and speak a little bit, just for a picture.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
just look at the camera and give me a good smile. 1, 2, 3, go. Sir, still, please.
Thank you. I couldn't hear you.
Just stand still. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So let me welcome our next speaker, Farah. Farah is from Malaysia, and ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little bit of idea about Farah. Farah Ahmed is a co-founder, chief investment officer of Consume Ventures Management. Farah is a venture capital entrepreneur who focuses on Sharia complement investment and developing startup companies. She has got 15 years of experience, in which 9 years in VC and 6 years in entrepreneurship. She has screened over 1,500 companies from diverse sectors and stages. And welcome Farah to World Leaders Summit, and we'll be more than happy to learn, listen, and enlighten us. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Arijit, for having me at this very prestigious event, learning from all learned speakers from around the world. It is truly a great pleasure for me to be part of this great event. And Arijit, thank you again for the kind introduction. I will have to use my slides and I will share screen.
Please.
So today I will be speaking about how SMEs handle challenges during COVID, collaborations as a private strategy, and investment opportunities. As you all know, as we all went through a lot of challenging and uncertain times earlier during the year, so we had time to adapt to what happened, and we also identified ways of how we can actually address all the uncertainties and how we actually go about managing ourselves and our businesses. So without further ado, let me just go through this. So you can see the photo is this man. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is the man looking over the mountain and is thinking how he can actually overcome all the mountains, how he can actually maybe go over to the other side. So to do this, it will take a lot of strong will. It will take a lot of the right strategies and the right partners to actually overcome and the challenges that he's going to go through. And in Chinese, the word crisis is made out of 2 characters. That is a time of danger and a time of opportunity. So in this kind of crisis, we actually do not let a crisis go to waste, we say. We always take the time to identify what are the opportunities, what are the positives that happen during the crisis of this COVID-19. Okay, so what you focus on grows. I just love this photo that I found on the net, so I thought I'd share with everyone. And just 3 things to keep our spirits up, just because a lot of people are going through a lot of things now, or previously. So stress is not what happens to us, it's our response to what happens, and the response is something we can choose. Yeah, this is happened to everyone. So we have the power to react how we want to react, and or no reaction is also a reaction. So we just have to choose the best action for ourselves, yeah, and for others as well. And the second one is you bend, but you do not break. This is related to resilience, something like the bamboo tree. It is a very resilient plant. It bends, but it does not break. And there's another saying given by Bruce Lee, the martial arts hero. He said that be like water. When there are stones on the path of water, what does the water do? The water rises above the stones and flows. Similarly, obstacles are in life. Rise above the obstacle and move through them. Have patience and flow over them. So having a super mindset, heart set, and will set is very important to overcome the challenges during COVID. You know, even for myself, for my company, we are actually in the investment space, but we actually have pivoted. We actually do a little bit of trade. We identified there are opportunities in the healthcare industries, so we actually went in there and we did a little bit of trade. We also partnered with a few companies in the AI, in fintech, in Go. So it's just actually to diversify our source of income, and we are still working at it. So it's actually the positivity inside is very important to go through this weather. Yeah. So your attitude will determine your altitude, and what you focus on grows. When you go into a transaction, always think good of that particular transaction or deal. Always think good of the other party, although we also have to be very careful and very mindful because in business there's a lot of things going on, but it's actually setting your intention. When you manifest your intention, you know, you are making like a prayer that this thing will grow to something that is good. So God willing, it will turn out to be something that is good. Okay, and you also have to adopt a transformational mindset that is having a positive outlook, as the energy you put in will be the energy that you emit. Discipline in carrying out through a set of workable action plan is also very, very important, because you can't just say, okay, everybody is good, but you don't really have like the strategies that you want to put in place. It doesn't work that way. You really have to think through what you're gonna do, right? So yeah. Next. And see, these are the somehow of the businesses pivoted during COVID. The ones that I bold are from Forbes. So I realized that at the onset, motivation consultants were immediately selling motivation seminars online at a decreased price, and everybody was going on the bandwagon because everybody like don't know what to do. So we were buying like courses for $49 or $7, you know. And they sell across the world. Imagine the money they would have made. But some other were thinking, oh no, the COVID happened. What am I gonna do now? So I lost my job, or I don't know how long I can stay in my job. What am I gonna do now? So instead of just mulling in your misery or thinking of the world is going to crash or something, maybe you can go out there and do something, right? So the other way is that stores expand digital ordering. We noticed that a lot of offline stores converge to online, and the mobile apps usage has increased quite tremendously. The demand for online food ordering, online groceries ordering, health services are all there. People also promote their products and services. I'd like to declare I'm not really familiar with TikTok, but I do see a lot of people selling stuff on TikTok. Online payments has increased. Businesses getting on social media, e-commerce sites to promote their goods, and hotels offer day rates, day pass, and co-working at discounted rates for work from home employees. This is because people do not go to hotels anymore. They're still scared. The hotels actually make available their spaces at a much lesser price for people who want to work from the hotel spaces. Sanitized, of course. There's less customer on site, more customers online, and commercial airlines which offer cargo flights also. So that's happened during COVID. So during the effects of COVID, it's also good effect in terms of digitization. We can see there is an increase in cross-border transactions, G2G trading, supply chain sourcing activities, global access to clients and stakeholders at unprecedented and rapid scale. That means previously when we're like offline mode, we actually take like in 1 month we might see 3 to 4 foreign clients, but now the world is like open. We can actually talk to our friend like Arjit in India, and my friend in China, and my friend in US. We can just go online and meet them. It's just like walking to next door even. Yeah. So it's a very high access to clients around and stakeholders, friends, people around the world. There's also at the earlier part, the markets have consolidated. This is in regards to investors. But they also realized when the market went down, there is opportunity to invest. So those who have invested back then would have made some money as well. There are changed perspectives and methods of conducting business as everything has moved online. And there's also organizing Zoom calls, timing, and preparation. Those are the effects of digitization. So I came up with this talking about the evolution of business adaptation during COVID. The first part is where businesses, SMEs adapt to what is happening, identify what are the problems and identify the solutions and adapting to the new normal. This is the first phase that has happened from March to May. And then the companies pivot between May to August. What happens here is the businesses need to find out what are the addressable markets. They might actually have to change or switch industries from what they're what they were doing actually. Case in point is actually one of the companies in Malaysia. They were previously doing car fittings, the chairs and all the things inside the car. They went out and sold masks after that. They actually become a mask manufacturer. Okay, and at this phase, you find out what the customer needs and figure out the strategies to go to market. And then the second half is actually where you transform and apply workable strategies, transform business approaches and processes. And the fourth is where you grow and scale. Okay. Nice. So how the SME overcome challenges? I will outline a few ways or methods that we can probably use. Or probably everybody is already using this, it's just highlighting. We realign our business activities and direction, okay? We review our current business standing and decide whether the industry that you're in is able to withstand the COVID time. We diversify and also pivot. I would like to quote my dear friend, Mr. Marty CJ Mongiello, that having a diversified income stream from companies of different industries will help in improving top line. What this means is that you go into different companies, different industries, and so that it will increase the potential of you having more cash inflows from different industries, yeah? So here, the very known one is that the businesses all have moved online and engaging clientele through online platforms using Zoom, LinkedIn, email, sales letter, e-commerce websites. Yeah? Next is that this one is my favorite, using technology to assist in business processes, AI, blockchain, and drones. During COVID, we can see some videos of drones delivering food and goods to customers. And we ourselves also indulge in one practice that is integrating AI into dialysis machine. That's for the patients or hospitals that we are addressing. And also we use blockchain to record the trades supply, the trades, the transaction. So these are all very good in actually helping the businesses to move forward during COVID. And actually, I also will share later on how we can actually use AI for small businesses to improve your bottom line. Yeah. There's also this need to actually SMEs, because they're restrained by the cash flow. We would actually suggest for the SME to get some buffer or seek financial assistance to scratch your cash flow. Buffer is always good, and also to engage clientele through the online platforms. Yeah, business offerings and business value proposition are communicated through online presentations currently. Yeah. So we can see here what are the businesses, as you all have already known. The adversely affected industries will be the airline industry. A lot of pilots, stewards, and the counter people all grounded. And there's the shopping malls, retail, offline premise also have a lot of shops will close down, and the oil and gas industries are also very much affected. But then there's also industries that thrive because of COVID, and this is actually the online apps. This one is a e-wallet that we use very commonly in Malaysia called Touch and Go and Boost. And Grab actually pivoted from ride sharing into delivering food in Malaysia. So the other day, Grab's office is just like 10 minutes from my house. I passed across the office and I saw there's like not really very many people, but I know that they're doing online delivery now. So there's also online education, very much thriving. There's e-commerce that's exploding beyond recognition, really doing very well. And there's the ones that are in sanitization business, healthcare, the mask business, the gloves business. Yeah, there's a lot more where that came from as well. So we choose what we want to focus on, yes, right? So we choose to focus on the positives. I would like to share with you some investment opportunities that comes from my company as well. Kanzun, actually in Arabic, it means a treasure. Kanzun means treasure in Arabic, but in Japanese, the same sound means perfect. So it's perfect treasure. So I'm trying to aggregate all those AI, blockchain, precious metals, so that we can have a perfect fund, this perfect asset allocation for our investors. Yeah. So Kanzun is a woman-led VC that is by myself, and we're raising 6 million for 80%. With potential ROI of 45%. This is a very, very conservative amount considering that we will have a stable of AI companies coming in. And there's also artificial intelligence offering that we can actually exit at 2x, or they say 7.5x, I slash it to 2x. You see, I can very in a conservative, but I believe they can actually go to 7.5x definitely upon NASDAQ IPO. It's just that we're timing the market now. There's also the gold-backed cryptocurrency, whose returns are based on the gold price appreciation. A plantation project, 30% returns after 40 months. And we also look forward to those people and investors, any business owners who would like to build AI systems together across any industries, that is healthcare, education, manufacturing, or even a financial institution. Okay, so this is the restore and rebuild. So this is actually our offering through my partner company, which I have collaborated with. It is an artificial intelligence affording reporting tools. It costs around $150. And if you use my discount code, you'll get 5% off. So I'll just share this video with you for a bit.
Do you as an entrepreneur see the need to transform your business in the coming months? Look no further. Introducing MyFinBee. MyFinBee uses financial analytics driven by artificial intelligence that value adds to any accounting systems or data to help you address key questions such as, how much is my business worth? How is my business performance compared to the industry? How to redesign my business model effectively. Through MyFinBee platform, you improve your business in terms of business performance, risk levels, shareholder value, and productivity. You can also get additional support through our one-on-one coaching sessions to implement action plans, group workshops, and financial management. MyFinBee is your best financial buddy you ever have for your business. So why wait now? Visit myfinbee.com to take action to boost your shareholder value and overall financial performance.
So yeah, before you pivot or before you move on trying to conquer the world, it's also good to put your financials in order. And this app can actually, this reporting tool can actually help you to do that. It saves time, saves resources and energy, and also saves headache. Oh, sorry. This is my friend Marty doing a gold-backed cryptocurrency.
From Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States of America, where first gold was discovered. And the first gold mine and first gold dollar ever minted in the United States history. Also the first American mint branch ever opened up by the United States here in Charlotte. So very proud of first gold here and all of the firsts with gold that have occurred here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're often asked, why would you be doing your debut in Charlotte, North Carolina? Why is it not in Las Vegas or New York or Los Angeles? Literally because first gold was discovered here in the United States. This is the historic and correct home of first gold. So wishing everyone a fantastic evening, and thank you so much.
So the next one, we actually have Peter Sommers, the owner of First Gold, originating from Germany. He's actually been interviewed under NASDAQ for first gold and first coin. This video is a bit long, so I'll just play a little bit because time is a bit running out. Just a little bit to show that this is really a good business as well. Fast forward.
Welcome back. Well, it's been a couple months since we've talked to Peter Summit, the
Oh,
CEO,
wishing you
and I'm sure, Peter, in this industry, it's fast moving, a lot of updates. What is the latest that's going on with First Coin?
Hello, Jane. I'm glad to be here again in New York by the NASDAQ Market TV. And yes, it's impressive. We have fixed a lot of things in the last 2 months. So we listed our project firstgold.com. The First Gold token is listed since the last 3 weeks. We start now to find agents in the Middle East area, especially in the Arabic region, because we have a focus on it, because the people believe in gold there. And we have a lot of requests, so we will grow there, I think, immediately quick, so that we have a cash back also for our project in First Coin, because First Coin, everything belongs to First Coin. So, and yes, we have used also with best rate in the next upcoming 2 weeks. wonderful today here from Charlotte, North Carolina. So we can cross all 120 cryptocurrencies in an easy way for crypto dummies. Everybody want to. Many people are afraid First to buy cryptocurrency gold.
okay, I think we'll just move to the next slide. This YouTube can be found in the YouTube actually. So we'll just move to the next slide. And this is my friend doing a global plantation, actually for investors that will consider to invest into Polonia project. The returns are around 30% over 40 months. And this tree can be planted in mostly a lot of other terrains. It's very, very versatile. Okay. All right. Okay, I do not know what happened there, but let us just go back to stop share. All right. Just a moment. Sorry about that. I think there's
No problem.
some share, and then we'll just go back to this watch later. Okay. I think best that we just skip the videos for now. So collaboration is really important for the companies to grow as a business strategy. And this all collaboration happen during the year. We sign papers with Intera for the plantation project and the AI with MyFinB. And also a few others, especially First Gold and also some trading opportunities. So it's a pleasure to actually be part of this great event. I look forward to actually collaborate with all SMEs and investors who are interested in the projects that I have mentioned, and also just to get to know one another and explore potential business opportunities. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Arjit. Really honored to be part of this great event.
Thank you so much, Farah, and all the support is for you from our investment banking companies and investors called Entrepreneur Space. We are doing it for quite a long time, approximately 7 years for now. And of course, we run a beautiful investment banking company based out of Australia called W Global. All supports are there, all hands are there. So I should take a question, one or two. Because of the time, probably we'll skip a couple of, but yes, you are actually getting approximate now 47 questions from social media. I can see one or two happening over here. So Marco is asking, great job with the presentation. What is the best form of communication you require to start a discussion looking at your project in a variety of markets? Are these projects focused on a particular region? and or emerging or developed countries?
Okay, thank you, Marco, for that question. Some of the projects like MyFinB, it can be implemented from where you are based because they are more like a AI as a software platform. And also we can do a Zoom call to actually look into the needs that you're wanting to build the AI asset. So we can do the Zoom call. For the Polonia tree, is usually we have to ascertain the terrain that is involved. Mostly the plantations are around in Malaysia, but it can also be planted across the world for reforestation. They are actually supporting a lot of SDGs for that Polonia tree. So it's very good because it emits more oxygen. I think 6 times more oxygen than the normal tree. It grows much faster. In 40 months, it's ready for harvesting already. And for first gold, you can actually, it's one of the very rare cryptocurrency that has gold backing it. And you can actually buy the gold and actually switch it with the cryptocurrency. So if you're traveling, you can actually buy the cryptocurrency, switch it, and then you just travel. And then when you want to get back your gold, you just go and switch it again at the ATM machine.
Yeah, it's basically a beautiful concept run by Moti and the team practically. So we had that session in the first day, and for the audience, it's a beautiful concept and a great business to be in, to be very honest. So I'm connected with a lot of these people who are dealing with alternative power, alternative currencies. So for those of my friends who are dealing with cryptocurrencies, they should look at First Gold Coin. And of course, we are here and happy to help. So next question to you. Vaishnavi Raj is asking, how successful is women-led organizations handling the pandemic, and what ratio is growth rate of investors investing in women-led organizations?
Okay, Raj, is it? Okay, thank you so much for the question. Honestly, I do not have the numbers, but what I can say is that women entrepreneurs, they are very strong-willed, whenever they say, if you want to know how strong is the woman, the tea, you want to know how strong is the tea, you put them in hot water, then you will see how strong is the tea. So women are like that. So you put them in this situation, you will try to rise above. And I've also come across a few women investors because I recently participated in the Women Entrepreneurs Congress recently conducted by beauty actor and Asif Iqbal. So there's a congregation of women entrepreneurs coming together, trying to help each other. I think the numbers for women investors are not that many, but we are trying to actually help elevate some of the women entrepreneurs. Definitely the work is ongoing now. Thank you for the question.
Super. So you're getting congratulations, and there are a couple of questions more, but for the sake of time, I'll be redirecting all those questions to your mailbox or probably in your WhatsApp. And Farah is always there. She's a dear, she's a great friend, she's a near, and of course, she is our Farah. Thank you so much, Farah, for being with us. Please stay tuned. So I can see that we have our next panel speaker, Nofer. Nofer, if you're there, please turn on your camera. Thank you so much for joining us. So ladies and gentlemen, hello. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give a small bit about Nofer. Before that, Farah, could you please look at the camera for 2 seconds?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. Hold on for a second. Let me see if it is no. Just look at the camera. No blink.
No blink.
One, two, three. Yes, I think
Okay.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you.
It was inspiring. Thank you so much.
Shalom.
Shalom. Hello. Salam alaikum. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So for the audience, let me tell you our next beautiful speaker from Israel. She's a director of Jerusalem Entrepreneurs Tourism Hub. Ma'am, please enlighten us with your
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thank you very much, dear friend, and thank you, Farah, for your amazing and inspiring presentation. My name is Nofar, and I am the director of the Entrepreneurs Tourism Hub in the city of Jerusalem. I'm working in behalf of the Jerusalem Development Authority. Just a few sentences about our organization. Since the city of Jerusalem has decided to transform the city into a business hub, we are in charge of the business and economic development of the city of Jerusalem. Therefore, we are dealing with a few sectors, and one of them is tourism. And I'm in charge of the travel tech company and the travel tech innovation in the city of Jerusalem, since we understand that we truly have the know-how, we have the community, and we have all the plugs that we need to transform the city of Jerusalem to an innovation city. So at the moment, I'm sitting in Dubai. I'm here for a business delegation, thanks to the amazing peace agreement between Israel and Dubai and the UAE. And I can see how innovation is transforming the people, is transforming and engaging the people to be better, to do better, to talk about the social, to transform to become something which is much better. And I truly believe that this is a new era for both sides. But if I want to go a bit deeper into my topic, I know that to most of us, Jerusalem has become and has the image of a cultural aspect of tourism and religion and pilgrimage and so. And it's of course, and it's indeed like this. But on the other hand, in the last couple of years, in the last few years, and I guess that I can say that in the last decade, Jerusalem has transformed to become a very vibrant and vivid ecosystem, taking part in some of the very, very enthusiastic and leading innovations in Israel. So I would like to share with you my presentation for today. Okay. So once we're talking about transforming a city into a technological hub, I guess that we can talk about a few aspects. But before I'm diving into the case of Jerusalem, I would like to give you a brief overview of the Israeli ecosystem. So thank you to Startup Nation Central, a great colleagues of us. We can say that in Israel has the highest destiny of startup in the world. That means that one startup for every 1,600 people. That means that in Europe, we have the amount of about 1 to 20K people. But if we will take the case of Israel, in Israel, we have approximately 8 million people and with diverse cultures. That means that if we will do the math for just a second, it means that it's almost 4,000 startups every year. Of course, some of them are closing and everything is vibrant and moving, but it means that you need to look about the ratio between the destination and the population. And if we are adding to that more than 1,000 R&D and very, very established, already established tech companies, we're reaching about 5,000 ecosystem vibrant and vivid tech companies. So if we want to see to see the ranking of by the World Economic Forum report, we can see that Israel is ranked in the 3rd place out of 137 countries. If we wish to understand a little bit better what does it mean, it means that they have done this ranking in ratio to the population and the amount of the people. but it's also in a few aspects. It means about the institutes of technology, the large of high scientists and so. And also we can talk about another point, which is the investments and R&D. In Israel, we can find some of these in the very, very high level, and I'll go in depth to these levels in the continuation. So let's talk a little bit about the multinational R&D centers in Israel. If we're talking about, you can see some of the most famous names that you know in the industry around the world. You can see IBM, and you can see HP, and you can see Microsoft. Of course, Samsung and Cisco and SAP. All of these are names that we all know, and they're sitting in Israel. But this is for a very, very particular reason. First of all, we can offer a very, very talented people here. We have few cultures. We have the Arabic, we have the Jews, we have the ultra-Orthodox, and everyone together working here to transform the city of Jerusalem to a very, very, the city of Jerusalem and Israel to a very, very vibrant and successful ecosystem. Also to that, you can offer a very, very good talent. We can offer a vibrant ecosystem, and it's really, really easy to transform and to do R&D here in Israel. These all segments are helping the country of Israel to become a very, very small but unique and highly heritage ecosystem around the world. So if we're diving into the case of Jerusalem ecosystem evolution, we can talk about 2,000 tech companies in 2012 to 440 in 2019. Here you can also see Allcom and Lightrix, the unicorns from the city of Jerusalem. But on the other hand, you can talk about seven investors on 2012 to 25 in 2019. This means that they are coming because they have the talent, because they have the companies, and because they have the money to invest in.
Nover, you there? I think there is some network glitch that's happening. Let us wait for her. Hello? I think she has some network issue. We can't see her. Not a problem. We'll be right back. Okay. So I think I can, if Farah is here, I can always ask her a question from the social media. Farah, are you here? Our previous speaker?
Yes, I'm here. But sorry, I'm on this video mode. It's okay, right?
That's perfectly fine, not a problem. So there was a question from the social media for you that what is the impact funding, and is there any way of creating impact fund for only women?
Impact fund. Okay. I think there is actually there's a few impact investors around. Actually, there's a lot of impact investors around. It's just that for you to bring the case to light. I'm actually on a network where there are a few impact investors, and also they support women entrepreneurs as well. Case in point, there's one investor called Anu Ventures. They're looking into impact investments, especially those with social impact. Solving poverty issues, solving enabling a lot of community going back to work, those kind of impact that actually can help the community to revive. And we are in communication with them, and they're not the only impact investors as well. So if you would like to know more, you can always write to me, and I actually can get you connected to them as well. Yes. Arjit,
Right. So super. We have Nofar back with us,
yeah,
and I think she is trying to reconnect. Welcome back.
welcome.
So sorry, technology. It's your whole back. So okay, so if we're talking again about the Jerusalem's ecosystem, I'm sharing my screen again. Here we go. You see me well? Okay. So as you can see, the Jerusalem ecosystem is thriving. But if you need to put your finger about a few sectors or about a few transforming issues that will help this transform to happen, you can talk about 4 of them. First of all is the academia. Jerusalem, as the capital of Israel, has some of the leading academia institutions in Israel. That means the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. We have the Jerusalem College of Technology. We have Azrieli, who is encouraging people for diverse technological aspect. But on the other hand, we also have the main government offices, the Prime Minister's offices, the Foreign Affairs, the economy. Most of the government's office are sitting in the city of Jerusalem. Therefore, that if they are doing any change, the people of Jerusalem has the effect, has something to say about that, which makes everything much more easier, much more, fast going. So if we're taking the academia and the government, but there is something which is really, really special about the city of Jerusalem, and it's about the communities. Because we're coming from such a diverse background, we are Arabic, ultra-Orthodox, Jews, Christians, everyone are here together. We build very, very unique communities. Everyone is bringing their own knowledge, their own know-how. That's what takes the ecosystem of Jerusalem to transform to become something which is really, really unique with great talent. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, we're also talking about culture and diversity. We're talking about Orthodox Jews, and we're talking about Muslims, and we're talking about people who are coming from different backgrounds. All of these together, with the community, with the government, and with the academia, the city of Jerusalem understood that it doesn't actually have to be Tel Aviv. What you can take is, you need to take what you have and to leverage it. Together with all of this, we are creating a very successful, a vibrant ecosystem that took all, the images of culture and regionals and diversity to the next level and transform this knowledge to a very, very vivid and, fast-growing destination. If I just want to talk a little bit about the travel tech sector in the city of Jerusalem, JUST is the house of the travel tech companies and startups in Israel. We're quite small, but we are very, very, we have the quality and it's not the numbers. And what we're talking is more about 25 travel tech companies in the community, which means that we actually saw during the pandemic time that travel tech is exactly what the world needs to cure this problem in the tourism industry. Just a few words about that. Until March 2020, the whole tourism industry thought that technology, it doesn't belong to them. And I guess that I can say it about my colleagues around the world, from Barcelona to from Paris, from Amsterdam, from Lisbon, from Johannesburg. We all thought the same. We all got the same impression that they just want to keep it very, very traditional, in-person touch. But after the pandemic, the whole industry understood that what they need to do to cure this is actually to bring technology in. And I guess the pandemic has brought some, some not nice problems to the world, but on the other hand, it brought us some very, very exciting opportunities, and among them, the travel tech sector. And I believe that the economic growth for startups in this period of time is fantastic. And I can say that more than 5 of our companies in our community has got contracts from all over the world with the greatest hotels chains to transform their knowledge into something which is international. Of course, as the City of Jerusalem, we are talking about implementing the technological skills at the tourism industry. So we are not only growing them, we don't only give them the opportunities, we don't only give them the connections to the Jerusalem's ecosystem, we also help them to enhance and to come to the city and to do their POC, to get the connections into the industry. And therefore, they can actually learn and they can see what the market is truly need. What are the main pain points in the industry of Jerusalem? And of course, that around all of that, we are arranging the meetups, the international corporations. We are helping with the financial support as the Jerusalem Development Authority. We can help them take what we have and the finance and to help them grow into the next stages. That means that we are offering a new and first of its kind experience in Jerusalem, both for the tourist experience, but also for the travel tech companies. And if we're talking just a little bit deeper into the travel tech vertical of the Jerusalem's ecosystem, we're talking mainly about the tourist experience. That means that it's from the first step that he's doing in the land of Israel and he leaves the plane. That means that the tourist experience has started. It means that the way the tourist experience around the institutions in Israel, the accessibility. It also means how, I guess that also around the world, it means that how you deal with over-tourism in smart cities, because you need to deliver and to help the cities to transform their best goals. It also means that the hotel and transportation and museums and attractions, I guess that we get here a great umbrella of the tourist experience that the city of Jerusalem, among other cities around the world, needs to address once you're talking about innovation and technology. So if we're talking about some details about the tourism industry, more than 60% of the US travelers would consider, to take their trip based on technological and very, very nice and soft and easy to go trip. That means that it has to be tailor-made exactly to what they need, but you can't do it unless you have the technology. You can't tailor-made their package unless you exactly know what they're looking for. Who are they? What is their background? Are they FATs? Are they a couple? And I guess that once that we will be smart enough to take all of these knowledge who are coming from different verticals in the ecosystem, in the international ecosystem, such as AI and algorithms, to understand better our tourists, we will be able to increase the money and the financial value that we get from each tourist. And if I want to take it a little bit deeper to why travel tech is economic engine for the city's growth, it means that you create new working places. It means that you bring new and very, very young and successful and hungry to succeed and new startups. It means that you are enhancing the traveler's experience in the destination. They want to leave more money in the city. They want to travel and to stay not 2 to 3 nights. It means that they want to stay for a week in a destination. It means that the whole industry is having the benefits. It means that you're offering a unique and one-of-its-kind vacation. And for sure, sure it's promoting the local ecosystem. So I guess that if we, since we are running out of time, I guess that if we are taking the whole thing that we just spoke about, we started in Israel and we spoke about what we think and how do we see the Israeli ecosystem, and we understood that we have some strong I guess that we understood that we have some strength in the Israeli ecosystem. It means that we have some cultural diversities which are actually our strengths. We have some of the greatest R&D centers in Israel, and that what transforms us to the innovation country around the world. And this is how we also see the transformations also in Jerusalem, and the Jerusalem ecosystem. So I truly appreciate your time, and it has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for organizing this amazing event. Of course, that I'm more than welcome to, if you wish to reach out afterwards to more questions or for more information, would love to answer.
Okay, I'll try to thank you in Hebrew. I'm not sure whether I'm doing it right or not. Toba Raballah. No further.
Sorry? Toda raba. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I've got a decent first question, which is from Raj. He's asking, considering that Israel being a landlocked nation and a country with a lot of diplomatic issues, how does it manage to grow so large in terms of travel and tourism sector? Interesting question.
It's definitely an interesting question, and thank you for that. But I think that once you're looking at, all the political issues, once you're taking it to the private sector, it doesn't appear there. It means that you take your advantages and you just implement them. You just enhance what you have. That means that once you're coming to Israel, you actually don't feel it. You don't feel these conflicts. You don't feel these tension that you might see or you might think about sometimes. And I guess that also once you're taking it, as I said, to the private sector and not to the public or the governmental level, you actually see that there are people that just want to do business and come to see other destinations. So I guess that once you take it into the in-person level, nothing is changed. It doesn't matter from any other aspect in any other city in the world. So yeah, politics sometimes is a mess, but on the other hand, we know that we are working with diversity of people, and I think that there isn't any other city in the world that knows how to deal with it like the city of Jerusalem, because we are coming from a background of Jews, Ultra-Orthodox, Muslims, Christians. We all live together. We all take the same buses. We all live in the same cafes. So on the one-on-one, we truly don't feel it. And I welcome you to come to Jerusalem and experience it.
Once the border is open, I'll be the first person to buy the ticket and be there.
I would love to host you. Just give me the dates and I'll be there.
Super. So I have a question before I take the questions from the social media. So I am a rigorous traveler. Probably in a month, whoever is following me in social media, all of them know that in a month, probably I travel 3 to 4 countries, continents basis for business travel. So there are 2 or 3 probably different kind of travelers as per my understanding. One kind of traveler, they are business traveler. Second kind of traveler, they are basically pleasure traveler. Third kind of traveler, they're practically health traveler or maybe medical traveler, who are probably for medical tourism, right? If I'm not wrong, their needs are different. Their perspectives are different. So when we look at the same from a perspective of smart city with smart travel, and when you try to incorporate these concepts with these 3 kind of travelers, what do you suggest? What are the kind of enhancements that we need in the world?
Wow, what a great question. Thank you for that. Okay, I think that as you mentioned, each sector has its own needs. But above all, I truly believe that we need to take this period of time of the pandemic and to actually come and look and see everything in new glasses and in a new perspective, because things will be changed. And things has been changed, and I guess that if at the moment people are looking for healthcare or health tourism, it's everything here today will be much more easier. Everything will be much more convenient for them because they will know they will have the information in a very, very easy and fluent way, because everything has changed and become technological. Therefore, they can look for this information, they can go, they can reach it. It's not something which is impossible anymore. And I guess that also, if I would like to add one more vertical to the, to the verticals that you just mentioned, I guess that we can also talk about the FITs. FITs are coming to Jerusalem and they love the city and they come and they want to explore it. But there is one situation and one challenge that the city of Jerusalem, for example, is dealing with, and it's to know where they sleep, because we don't know that we don't have the info about them. They are going to sleep in the Airbnbs, and they're taking the buses. So they're considered to be kind of, like Israelis or like locals in some terms. But once we will have, and once we will implement these technologicals, once we will implement these, help and just trying to figure out like what is the right word for that. And I guess, yeah, that technology is exactly that. So I guess that we will be able to deliver what we have in a much better way, in a much convenient way, and we will transform all the verticals that we just mentioned to something which is much more fluent, much more enhanced, much more, future looking. So I guess that this is my opinion. I guess this is what the world needs. We truly need some more technological habits and tools in our lives in order to transform and to help all of the verticals, all of the sectors to become better and to become, top edge.
Super. So I think I got Farah. You want to ask some question?
I think it was a really great presentation so far. A lot of great information that we can learn from you. Look forward to great, definitely.
No, Farah, I need a small favor. I need you to look at the camera and stand still for a few seconds, please, for the picture. 1, 2, 3. Give me a second. Let me see if it is perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. So for you, the next question from social media, talking about smart cities and smart travel, there is a situation we are facing as pandemic. After pandemic, what is your opinion? Travel and tourism for luxury travel will be much more higher, or it will be more like usual travel? Probably he's trying to say it's like common travelers. Yeah.
So, in my opinion, since I think we have become much more spoiled in the way that we will travel, that because we have had kind of a psychological transformation. Everyone were sitting at their homes. Therefore, a transformation has been done. All the museums has brought their interior to you. You could sit in your home, you could sit and with your family and to travel around the world and to see what the Louvre in Paris have to offer for you, or what people in Barcelona has to offer. And everything has been changed and has been rearranged. Therefore, I think that we already understood and transformed our ways of traveling and taking part in social events in a very, very, you wish it to be much more boutique. You want it to be much more personal. You want to have your slot in the museum because you don't want other people to be with you. So so I think that if we're talking about it, it's something that we actually don't feel, and it's in a very, very high level of psychology and understanding what we will be looking for now. So I guess that because we have this transformation, we didn't feel it, but we had it. So much has changed, and I think that the luxurious travel it will be back, and I think that it will be like the biggest changed, and it won't be disappeared. People won't be to travel on their own. They would like it to be very, very tailor-made for them, and with a very, very specific slot, because we know that we can do it in another way than what we have got used to before the pandemic. So talk to me in a year, and I'll tell you what are the solutions and what we have found.
Super, super. So I guess Nofar is with us, and of course we are having this World Leaders Summit, and it's going to happen from 7th of December to 16th of December. Today is 9th, the third day of WLS. And talking about women entrepreneurs, let me tell you guys that we are having an excellent, beautiful group of women who will be joining us from 4 p.m. Indian time till 8 p.m. Indian time with a great panel of discussion. And the reason we took all the women, approximate maximum number of speakers, as you can see today, totally dedicated to women. The reason is we have 12 speakers and only we have 2 men within the panel. And I firmly believe, that's completely my understanding, women are universe herself. They don't need anyone. We need them to beautify our culture, our world, and us. We are scattered people. We need you to make us more beautiful, more structured. With this note, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm getting a lot more questions. Okay, I get a last question for this session. Ankit is asking, hi Nofar, very well presented. There is a lot of good things happened during this pandemic. And after so many decades, there is a fight between Middle East and Israel. How are you planning to welcome new tourists? Peace. You got your answer.
Can you just repeat the last sentence? You mean about religion and travelers?
No, he's saying that there is a fight between Middle East and Israel. How are you planning to welcome new tourists?
I think that we are stepping into a new era, as I just mentioned. I think that the Middle East and Israel has understood that we have, we have so much in common. We have so much to take together. And I guess that this Abraham contract has transformed what we truly know about the Middle East. The city of Jerusalem, with its diversity, I think it's like the most similar city to everything that you can see in the Middle East. You can see the changes, you can see the diversity of people. We truly understand what our cousins from all around us are looking for. I guess that we are much more similar than we think. And as I mentioned, sitting here in Dubai, just actually, this is what we are talking about. We are actually talking about, put all the political issues on the side. We are here to make money. We are here to transform the world to a better place, as you just mentioned. We are here to take all the positive that we have and to transform it into something which is greater than the partial parts. And I think that this is the new aspect of how we see things. Politics is here, and politics is here to stay. But on the other hand, we also need to know how we continue to the future, how we leverage what we have together as the Middle East, and transforming it into money, transforming it into world-leading success. And the Israeli success is also the success of Egypt and Jordan and our brothers in Lebanon, and of course that in the UAE. I guess that if we will be, we will be taking all the positive things, exactly as this forum, we're taking people and know-how from all over the world, and we are transforming it into something global. So I guess that we can minimize it to what we try to do in the Middle East. And we just need to try to see in what perspective we should take it. So I think that, as I said, it's a new era in the Middle East. And I believe that it will bring very, very, very good things to the area and to the world.
Of course, yes. So with this note, I think we are all getting a lot of text from few of the people. They are saying that this is the right time for probably a World Cultural Summit, which we should start together. For every one of you, let me give you a perspective as a founder of World Leaders Summit. World Leaders Summit never ever started out of the blue. World Leaders Summit actually a thought process to handhold people, give people values, and help each other. It's not an autocratic model. People can always communicate with each other, connect with each other, handshake, do business. There is no rule or restriction that you cannot connect from someone to another one. You can always float another different kind of event if you wish. If you really wish to float maybe a cultural event, most welcome. We'll be happy to help you, support you if you need any kind of help, any kind of support. We'll be more than happy to connect with more speakers if you need, with probably some more investors if you need, more technology if you need, all in for you. So this is a platform, is a kind of I should say a dream of all of us, so that world can be a better place. Now, to re-answer the question that's happening with Middle East or Israel, I firmly believe human being under the skin are all same, right? We have the red blood in our veins.
You couldn't say it better, my friend. You truly couldn't say it better. It's exactly the essence of everything. We're all human at the end. We all just want to have great life, to enjoy it, and to transform it, like to take it and to make it the best. We can either choose if to let politics disturb us or to take it to the next future-looking aspect. I truly believe on the second method, and I guess that I have many colleagues around the world that thinks exactly the same.
Exactly the same. And let me give a few of my perspective. Although I'm a technologist since my entrepreneurial journey of around 23 years. But to be very honest, I have an inclinedness to understand culture and human being. And whatever we created on gaming sector or virtual reality sector, we actually digged upon the mythology and history of human being on a complete different level. I personally learned Sanskrit, Pali, both the language, along with few of the Russian, so that I can understand the cultures. I tried to understand a few bit of cultures on my own way, so that we can tell the world, no, you are actually totally wrong. You are thinking to that culture in your own perspective. They are not like that. They have their own perspective. First learn it, then you comment. You're not entitled to comment anybody in the world that they are good or bad, unless until you are learned enough. That's called wiseness. With this note, let me conclude the session for today's World Leaders Summit. Thank you so much for all the comments. Let me give thanks to all our beautiful speakers, learned and wise questions to the audience. Thank you so much. People have joined from so many different parts of the world that I cannot just, take them up, pick them up. It's like flooded in the social media. I can always give thanks from bottom of my heart that we are all human beings from only one God, and that's only one God. Let me give thanks to our partners, ecosystem partners, players, Anim Gaming, Deep Technology, 8 Metals, Glam World Face, Ability Global, Animation Reviews, Peer Signal, Supreme Corp, Virtual Infocom, IOI Industries, VGD, Cybersecurity Geek, I Am Superhero, Yoga Training for You, My Films, Sports Zone In, Second Life Tech, Cost Per Seller, Squash Code, Exo Designs, Entrepreneur Space, Achibas Hub, BizTech, XR Design Lab, I Lead, TechSauce, William Divers, Vadvani Foundation, IBM TV, Africa Digital, Adamas University, and HD Africa. Thank you so much. Please stay tuned with us for today's evening with all those global women leaders. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure.
Bye.